Hello, guys. Welcome back to Nerd After Hours. It is your host, Brian and Carissa. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic. We're going to be talking about the Roe v. Wade situation and what we think the consequences of that are going to be. Um, we're going to inform you with everything that we've seen on it. And this video is particularly going to be going on both of my channels, the Nerd After Hours channel and the Ben 10,000 of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I really quickly want to address my Yu-Gi-Oh! Audience, because I know there's a handful of you in here who like to nitpick at me when I talk about serious topics and bring a guest on who's going to be familiar with said topics. I know this video isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't care. All right? If you're just going to send me a private message and say this video isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! or that make that kind of complaint, or it's not Yu-Gi-Oh enough, guess what? I don't care. I know this video isn't remotely related to Yu-Gi-Oh, but this issue is too big to ignore. If you don't want to watch the video, fine. I can't control that. But just know I'm not going to tolerate those messages. I'm not going to tolerate that comment. And if you're derogatory against women on the comments, I also will not tolerate that. I will police the comment sections of these videos so fast. You have no idea. I will make the flash look slow. Now, with that being said, Carissa, why don't you lead us on this conversation, because you're going to be the one who's mostly affected by this at first.
Where to begin?
Why don't we tell them what happened
I
in case they
definitely,
don't
if I
know?
could afford it, I wouldn't be living in America right now. I feel like everybody with a uterus could relate to that standpoint.
Oh yeah.
Even though I'm a woman, it doesn't personally affect me as much currently because I'm not in a situation where that's something this is the type of thing where I have to worry about. But it's
Yeah,
more
because
upsetting about like the future, like because it seems like we're taking steps backwards. So like if things are really bad right now, is it going to be worse like for any future daughters I might have, my nieces?
mm-hmm.
um it's bad enough that abortion is being outlawed right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse because women who are getting, like, even just trying to seek something out, they're getting punished. There's like there even miscarriages, like there's investigations right now going on for miscarriages,
Yeah.
and it's like that's a hard enough thing to go through. And the most upsetting thing is, there's women who are trying to get them because they're rape victims, and the rapist family can sue them now for getting an abortion.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting. I haven't, I've never been pregnant before, so I don't fully know how that feels. But like in college, I did have a pregnancy scare. I was worried that I was pregnant. And I'm somebody, like, if you know me, I'm very baby crazy. I've always wanted kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the thing. And I remember being terrified because it's like, yeah, normally this wouldn't be the end of the world, but I was scared because the person who was for it was a non-consensual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, like, and I was afraid because, like, if I kept that, like, he could have access to me forever, because they could still get custody of the child whether or not that child was created with consent.
Yeah.
And it's a way for abusers to control their partners a lot of times, and there's no protections put on there. And, like, luckily I didn't end up having to worry about it because I wasn't, but thinking about what could have happened if that was the case. And for a lot of, especially young girls, that is what's going on. um and it's crazy that men, like these grown men who are getting young teens and preteens pregnant, are not going punished, and instead the young girls who are children and are not ready to be mothers are being forced into that, which can also badly damage your body when you're not fully developed. Like if you're not a full grown adult, pregnancy can harm you. Outside of just it should be somebody's choice. Pregnancy is life changing. Even if you don't decide to keep a child, it is life changing. It will mess with your body forever. And
Yep.
some people, and most of the children who end up being put out into the world end up in foster systems. It's not like this simple yes or no, like, oh, they'll just, like, oh, they'll just get adopted. Most of them don't. So this, like, fairy tale idea of, well, just put them up for adoption, that's not always an option.
Yeah. It's
It's a net negative. And yeah, it's fine if there are people who'd rather do that, but the idea that, oh no, it's fine, people are dramatic, they can just put their children up for adoption. Do you know how many kids are out there who aren't getting adopted? There's no reason to create more.
Oh, but according to what's her name, the what's her name? I think it's Barrett or whatever, that justice. She says that
I don't know.
there's not an ample supply of, you know, babies going into the foster care system, but yet there's still thousands of unadopted children in the foster care system right now. So what's wrong with those kids that are already there? I bet I can guess. I'm guessing they don't look like you or me. Is my guess. There's not enough.
There's a big push for white people to have more babies. That's what it's
Yeah.
about, which is creepy and gross, but it's because you can sell them for more money.
There's that. Yeah.
And the adoption industry is going to have less money if they're not having more babies created. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, sorry.
We always have technical issues. We're used to it at this point.
Sorry, it's the thing here.
It's what we do.
It should be okay now. Sorry.
It's all good.
There's like dingings and stuff here. Just ignore it.
Yeah.
Promise it's not important. It's just my phone glitching.
It's a Decepticon. We've seen Transformers. We know things. Anyway.
So that's kind of a general rant about how I feel about things.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to be in Canada.
Yeah. Take me with you, please. I'm begging you. Anyway, hey Canada, can we do like a swap? How about that? Can we do that? You know, we can trade citizens. Can we do that? That'd be a nice. Just do a little swap there. You know, like give you and people like you and me a chance to go over there, and give and then you can have more in exchange. America can have more Trump supporters. I guess I don't fucking know. We'll just keep doing that until there's nothing but and then watch this play that America just crumble, fall to the ground in like 5 minutes. Anyway, that's a horrible joke. Anyway, I'm very angry about this because I can't help but think about I've been following everybody because it's been nonstop. The thing on TikTok right now is this. Every other video I have come across for the past week pretty much has, ever since it's been announced. I don't know if it's been a full week yet or not, but ever since that leak happened, it's every other video has been talking about it. And I am just drowning in it, and I can't not, like, I know that the healthy thing is to listen and then step away for a little while, but lately I just can't do it. I can't step away from this. It's I've been listening to it. I've been putting away, sorting out my cards and stuff like that, planning other YouTube videos like for the Yu-Gi-Oh channel, and it's interfering with that because it's like all I can think about are the consequences of this stuff. Like there's so much stuff that's connected to Roe v. Wade that a lot of people don't realize it is connected to it. Like first and foremost, yes, this is going to hurt women first. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. This will hurt women first. Because at first it's going to be about abortion. Then you're going to realize some other things. Because Roe v. Wade is primarily ruled the way it's ruled in privacy. You have the right to privacy between you and your doctor. So you see what happens if Roe v. Wade gets overturned. That means that the police can investigate women for, having a miscarriage to see if it's an abortion or not. Which, by the way, you can't tell the difference. There's no way to know. So there's
early set abortion is literally just triggering your body into having a miscarriage.
Exactly.
So there's no way to tell the difference. Not without I don't know if there's a way to trace the medicine in your body or something, but
I mean, and that's a big if. because it might, if it all it does is trigger the natural thing that's happening, then there's no way to know if it was the natural thing in the first place. So
Yeah. Like if I like the idea that like because I've taken the closest thing I've had is I've taken a Plan B before, and all it did was when I had my period, it was a lot heavier, so that there wouldn't be any kind of traces left. It
exactly,
was not a big deal.
yeah. So that's the big thing that's gonna happen with that is you're gonna that's the first thing, and like we said, we've already been talked about. There are already states that are trying to make it a felony penalty where in some of those states be a felony can lead to the death penalty. So they're so pro life that they'll kill you. Uh, oh
So
God,
nonsensical.
we live in hell. Anyway, the point that I'm going to get, actually, what am I kidding? Hell would have better rules. Anyway, uh, I said what I said. I'm not going to apologize. Anyway, anyway, like I was going to say, so it's also built in privacy, correct? Whereas, and that's correct, and that starts with that level of it, right? But here's the other things. So for all those conservatives out there who are trying to use the my body my choice thing when it came to vaccines and mask mandates, well, guess what? Now they can. Now they can mandate you to get a vaccine, and they can come in your house and make you take it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the unforeseen consequences. Maybe they can even confiscate organs against anyone's will. Not just women, us guys too. That's right. Ooh, you know what? I think you have one too many kidneys, sir. There's somebody over there needs a kidney. Sorry, we're just gonna take yours. What am I kidding? There'll probably be the cops that come get you, so they're not gonna say sorry. What are we kidding here? They're just gonna kick the door down and be like, "You're giving us a kidney," you know. So, you're giving us an eyeball or whatever.
You know, I actually have something kind of a funny tidbit to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, my parents, they're very staunch. My dad especially very like Republican, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
always find this interesting. They talk about like free body, free will.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned 18, it was, when you're signing up for your license, they ask about things like, kidney donors. And I always thought like that made sense. Like I would not want like my body parts to go to waste if it could help somebody else. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why wouldn't I want to do that? And I remember my dad yelled through the hissy fits, like, don't do that. Like, they'll find any excuse to, like, not put you on any kind of life support, just instantly kill you and take your organs if you sign up for that. That sounded kind of extreme to me, and, like, it
I mean,
probably wasn't true,
it's
but,
it's happened, but it's very rare. There was a doctor in New York that got caught doing it forever ago. Like, I want to say early 2000s, but I mean it happens, but that guy was also sneaking, like trying to get,
yeah,
like
but,
he was doing a whole bunch of other under the table shit too. So it
hmm.
wasn't just it's not like your dad's conspiracy theory where all the doctors are going to find a reason to kill you and take your organs.
Well, that was just my thing. I remember that being so frustrating because it's like, you have this idea where it's like, they shouldn't have any access to your body parts. And it's like, this is something you could do to help people. And you're anti against it because, you don't want to do that. You're so anti that. But it's like, it should be somebody's choice. And I remember like when I started doing it right away, I made sure to like sign up for that because I wanted that. But it's so frustrating. So it's like somebody should, like, you acknowledge that should be a choice, like that you'd want to do that or not. So why is it any different for any other body part? Like, and for a lot of women or just people in general, not just women, pregnancy can be life threatening.
Yeah, that's why it's
Like,
your choice. That's the
it shouldn't
biggest
be
reason.
something taken lightly.
Yeah,
And why would you want to encourage that? Especially when it comes to like now we're trying to ban a condom. So it's like, do you just hate sex?
that's part of it. Yeah.
I don't even think it's like another control tactic. That's the best way I can put it.
Oh yeah.
It's the only thing I can logically bring it down to is it's about control.
Yeah. That's exactly what this is about. This is about control. And the truth is, one of the reasons why is if this is a felony, in a lot of states, that means you lose your right to vote, and one of the reasons why they're doing this is because it's a roundabout way to take away your right to. I mean, think about it. They've been doing this to black people for years. You know, that's why they make all these drugs illegal, so they can arrest black people, put them in the system, give them felonies so they can't vote, because people of color don't vote for Republicans. They don't vote conservative. And so that's basically the whole thing. It's just what they're doing, what they've been doing to black people with the drug laws is what they're trying to do to women with sex laws, basically. Literally, we're talking about politicians who in the past, couple decades have tried to ban all sorts of things. We're not just talking about contraceptives either. And tried to make abortion bans. We're talking like they've tried to ban things like sex toys, pornography. Like they've tried to make like computers where they couldn't download that kind of data without paying a fee to the state or something like that. It's they're trying to control everything about the human sexual experience. Oh, and by the way, it gets even crazier than that. Do you want to add something before I get to my next point?
I just have one really quick tidbit that'll at least be a little bit funny that might help you.
Go ahead.
Ted Cruz tried to outlaw dildos, and I think that's really funny.
I read an article
and I think that's a lot about his married life, and that's all I had to say. Yeah. Just in case you're wondering where he stands.
Yeah, idiot. I also read an article today that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, tried to support that too. So, yay! My two biggest politicians in my state are fucking evil. And apparently they're bad at, well, Abbott makes kind of sense, but Ted Cruz is probably just, got bad game. Anyway. My next point that I was going to talk about is also, did you know that there are anti-sodomy laws that are in a lot of these states as well, which were deemed unconstitutional. That's, for layman's terms, sodomy is anal sex, for those of you who don't know. Yeah. And by the way, who is that aimed at? That's actually not aimed at people in straight relationships. That's aimed at gay men.
No kidding.
So, yeah.
I would have never figured.
That's what those anti-sodomy laws come from. They're attacks on gay men. There are also oral sex laws in various states, too. So, fun fact.
So fucking weird.
But what? Are any of those laws ever going to get used against straight couples? I bet not. So my money on it is that's the other part of why they want to reverse Roe v. Wade, because Roe v. Wade has also been used for that. I believe it's also been used in arguments for interracial marriage. So yeah, God. It gets a lot crazier. Like when you think about how this landmark legislation is so important, that's why they're targeting it, because if this goes, a bunch of precedents that were set from it go with it. And that means that they can legislate, they can literally try to, basically the idea is to force white people to only be with white people. Also, there are various cities in the United States now that are also trying to make anti-cohabitation laws, which basically means if you are not married or related to a person, you cannot live in the same household as them. Basically, it's an anti-roommate law when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of it. So they want to control who you can marry. They want to control, what kind of sex you have. God. They want to control what kind of sexual content you're viewing, because there are tons of anti-pornography laws that have already tried and failed on the law. Although those are protected by the first one, so I don't think they can really ban pornography as easily, but that's not going to stop them from trying. I mean, literally, if they can get rid of this one, they will try to get rid of every progressive.
Well, they already did. There was OnlyFans was down for a while. There was a lot of girls who were really worried about their jobs because, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, you're not allowed to post lewd content.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you think OnlyFans is?
Right. Correct.
And that was because of religious groups who wanted it shut down.
Yeah. And now and here's the thing. A lot of people are debating about where all this stems from. Like, oh, is it control? Is it racism? Is it, Is it sexism? Is it misogyny? You know, is it all that? And I'm like, it's not one or the other. It's all the above. Republicans have been openly against the LGBT, people of color, women, uh, people of non-Christian faiths, and atheist and people of no faith for decades. They're attacking everyone, and they're trying to do it in one fail blast. And they're using the Supreme Court to do it. Even though, by the way, many of those people in the Supreme Court in their interview hearings lied to Congress when they said they would enforce precedent. So that's like 4 out of the like 6 Republican Senate Supreme Court members basically lied to Congress. And also it turns out that many of them are connected to the same what was it? There was like a conservative college thing. Hold on. I got my mute turned on.
Oh, you got your notes ready to go.
Oh yeah. By the
Nice.
way, since this video will be out on Tuesday, if part of the Mother's Day movement, what I told you about is Tuesday is the day where the only thing you're supposed to talk about is this. So that's where my notes are coming from. I have a ton of videos saved. Like I might have enough to upload a TikTok for every hour that I am awake tomorrow.
Fuck yeah.
I have been saving videos. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna shut up about this. You know, I've been a piece of shit when it comes to women's issues in the past, so I've got a lot to make up for, and I figured this is as good a time as any to start. So anyway, it's called the Federalist Society. That's where the Supreme Court guys come from, and it's basically a rich guy started it so he could overturn progressive values because basically what was happening is he got scared because he saw Black Panthers walking around with guns demanding to be treated better by society. This is like during the Martin Luther King era, and basically that guy started the Federalist Society so basically he could make sure the rich people stay rich and the poor people stay poor. And that's what the other part of this is, and that the majority of the Americans stay white. So that is what all of this Roe v. Wade reversal stems from, is that. And oh yeah, I can already see that some of the videos though that I saved for that event for tomorrow have been taken down. 2 of them are gone already. I wonder what that's about, TikTok.
Definitely send like anything helpful or like that should be spread around my way and I can repost it to Instagram. I'm still taking a sabbatical from TikTok.
But you can always post it as an Instagram
I definitely
story.
want to help out and participate. I didn't know about this till you brought it to my attention, so
yeah.
Weirdly right now you're technically like a better feminist than me because I've been a hermit, which is weird because I'm usually always like everything's internet, but
yeah, well, to be fair, you've been horribly treated by TikTok, so I don't blame you for taking a breather there.
Between like working a lot and just not having a lot of access to the internet, I just have not kept up with what's going on, and to be honest, I get overwhelmed sometimes, so I kind of retreat. It's like it's not that I don't care, it's just that I have issues, so sometimes I need to take breaks. So
if you know, it's probably everybody, all the mental health people on TikTok say that that's the healthy thing to do, is to take breathers from these things. I'm just not a very healthy person, obviously, by my superheroic physique, if it can't be noticed. So I'm, diving full in, and I just can't ignore this one. Like even just for
you
a couple
shouldn't.
minutes.
I mean, like I understand why people, like when it comes to Black Lives Matter, like you should be sharing Black voices, not speaking over them, or women's issues, be listening to women, not speaking over. But at the same, like, I can at least say for this, I would rather somebody speak out than not, because the problem is, whether it's fair or not, men have more sway over change, especially white men. Is that fair? No. But it takes like people to fight against their own self-interest to help out in order for anything to change.
Well, I mean,
it's not fair, but that's the only way we get anything done. Because
historically speaking,
whether I like it or not, like I'm always going to have less power, less fight, less control. And the only reason why I have the amount of rights I do is because there's at least some people who, even whether they were forced into it or did it willingly. It's because they were willing, they had some of their power chipped off.
Well, women started the reason why the suffrage movement, the reason why you have the rights you have today. But women of color, people of color, typically have been leading the charge for
Oh yeah.
for most of the major changes that we have here. Like the Stonewall riots were literally started by, I think one of the main ones was a black transgender woman, and that was like back in
Yeah.
the 60s, I think. So yeah, it was I will say this much: it's a lot of these powerful movements. I mean, it's not to say that white men didn't play any role at all. I mean, there's
Oh,
literally
I'm not saying like their voices are more important. It's just
right.
that if they don't speak up, then not much is going to change because
Yeah,
men won't generally listen to anybody but other men, and that sucks.
yeah, it leaves a
But
bad
I
taste in
guess
my
there's
mouth.
not much you can that's not much you can do. I mean, I honestly know only two guys who will like listen to what I say and take accountability to it. Outside of that, like I remember, like I grew up in auto tech and stuff, and sometimes things I would say would kind of sink in, but for the most part, I there's definitely a difference between like if a girl will say something versus if a guy will say it, because generally like I could suggest the same thing another guy would suggest, and the other guy would still get credit for it, even if I was the one who originally came up with it, originally did the job. I saw that happen a lot.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, that's gross.
so it's not fair, but it's what we have to work with currently. So I would rather have guys speak out and help rather than just keep their mouth quiet because it doesn't personally affect them. And it's like, well, eventually it could. Do you
Yeah,
like premarital sex? Do you like privacy? Do you like porn? Well, maybe be nice to the people who are creating those things for you.
yeah. Well, that's
You're
like
gonna
the
hate women, but
there.
also
There,
want to
you for
buy
the Yu-Gi-Oh
content.
people who need a connection. There, I know you all like
I would like men to have better reasons for fighting, but if like that's literally the only thing I can get for them to listen to any of us, then like I guess you kind of have to say it. Like if you do this, it doesn't just affect you. Like you get some girl knocked up because you didn't want to wear condoms and it feels good. Well, guess what? You're paying child support for life now because even though she didn't want it either, tough luck.
Yeah,
Tough luck. It does affect you. You
yeah.
don't you it might not affect you as much, but for
You're not gonna get an argument out of me. I
all
agree.
the jackasses who are enjoying this because
Yeah, they
they
think you're killing
want their
babies.
control back over women.
Yeah, or the
Anyways,
religious nuts who think you're killing babies because they're dumber than a bag of hammers and haven't bothered to pay attention to a science class. A
yeah,
basic science class, by the way. I'm pretty sure we learned this in like
there's not a
seventh
more
grade.
baby crazy person than me, and I love my Planned Parenthood. So
Yeah, this is another thing. Like, it's interesting because like this comes at a very interesting time. Also, I think it's very odd that they're starting to ban all the contraception and condoms and stuff, but male birth control is just around the corner.
and
Like
so that
it's
guys have the control over it, and only the men.
so yeah, but I don't think I've seen anything in the legislation that says anything about male birth control. The only I've seen condoms. I've already seen condoms.
Turning into a conspiracy
So they
theorist,
are
but still.
so they are targeting the man side of it a little bit. But like I've already seen like anti IUD laws. I've seen like they're trying
Oh
to
yeah, that's
limit what
happening.
kind of birth control you can use, and I know why, because things like the shot or the IUD, these things are I also think are more permanent and easier to like. All right, so back in the day, you had to like when I was a kid, there wasn't as many options for birth control. So the only thing y'all women had to do is every day y'all had to take a pill every day.
Yeah, been
So,
there, done that.
but you could skip a pill and fuck up the whole cycle and then still get pregnant, right? So I
That was my pregnancy scare. Ding ding.
so that's
College.
that's exactly what I'm getting at. I'm thinking that that's one of the reasons why they're trying to go after like the IUDs, is because you plop it in
Less
there.
room for mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. It's less room for mistakes, and that's another. And the only other thing I can think of is the reason why they're trying to get rid of the condoms is because now they're trying to say, well, the progressive men won't have their tool to help. You know what I mean?
I think it's also about trying to. Well, also, condoms are generally more effective because you're completely blocking anything from going in there, whereas, like, the other forms. And also, it makes it more risky for having multiple partners, right? So,
Oh, the
like,
condoms
for
make it
me,
more risky
generally when
or
I've been
less
in a
risky?
relationship, I'm not generally going to use condoms.
Mm-hmm.
But like generally if you're still single, you're gonna, when I'd be sleeping with, maybe a couple of guys a month, I would generally always use it because, you want to be safe.
Exactly.
And they're very anti that. And also one of the main groups who use condoms are also gay men
That's true.
because, butt stuff is a little bit more risky sometimes when it comes to that, especially if once again you're having multiple
Oh,
partners.
I didn't think about it for gay men.
Whereas like a lot of straight men already don't like using condoms and throw hissy fits. Like I can tell you from being out there, you know, you know how many times I had to tell a guy to leave because he'd throw hissy fit about putting a condom on. I'm like, yeah, no. It's like I'm not risking catching anything because you know you don't. It doesn't feel quite as good. I'm like, well, I kind of like feeling like I don't have an STD, so.
Really? Like, I maybe I'm just, telling on myself here, but like I've used condoms before and I've had sex without them before, and it's better, but it's not that much better. I
Well, I'm gonna say I don't know. Maybe it's a fetish thing then. I don't know, but I can just say from being out there back
that's
when I
maybe
was
that's just
still because I was single for a little over a year, so I'm not saying like I slept with, but like I hooked up like a fair amount, so I generally like,
oh no,
and
what if
that
the
was a
church is
big thing
listening?
was
You might be
guys.
called a whore.
I know that was a big thing was like, and I remember there would be some guys who are frustrated. It's like, wait, you can't get pregnant, you still want? I'm like, yeah, because it's not just about pregnancy. Like, yeah, I don't have the ability to get pregnant, but I also don't. Like, I don't know you. I don't trust you. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, I'm sorry.
I don't know what you got.
Like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know your history.
I don't know
I got like,
how many other girls did you stick that thing in?
yeah, right. And it's like it's about a safety thing. Or
Yeah.
men, I'm fine with a fellow bisexual, but
We're not judging. We
like,
don't judge here.
yeah, it's like, and and it's not just about that, but like if I'm sleeping around, then like you just got to be safer. Once
Yeah.
again, if you're doing that,
The safe bet
I,
is to
I I
assume
tested
if
once
you're
a I
sleeping
would get
around,
tested
so is the
about
other
once a month.
person.
Once
Yeah.
again, Planned Parenthood. I luckily made it out of that life safe. Not everybody always ends up as lucky, but yeah, it's so generally a lot of straight guys already don't want to use them anyways. I think it's more about targeting gay men because gay men usually are the types who prefer to use them anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. I honestly didn't even. The thought never even crossed my mind to think about gay
And
men
also
for
like
that
condoms are
ban.
great for sex toys once again because sterilizing sex toys can be time consuming and that's kind of annoying to do in between each use. Whereas
Yeah.
like for me, sometimes having like sterilizer wipes or just a condom I can throw on is really nice because it's just one less thing to worry about.
Yeah.
So it's really taking away that safety measure and making sex more risky. So you're going to be spreading more disease if you're doing that.
Which I think might be the partial,
IUDs.
but yeah, and I think that might also be part of the point, because let's face it, church people want sex to have negative consequences. They just want it, and science has basically taken all of the,
Oh,
or 99% of the negative consequences of sex out of the equation, and the church doesn't like that because science counters a lot of the stuff of the church. So basically what it's, I mean, this, if we're gonna go into conspiratory territory here, if anything's the conspiracy, it's totally the church. They want there to be disease, because it's like they
yeah.
can be like, see, God's punishing you for having butt sex. See, you're a bad person, you're going to hell, repent. because you caught the rash that's gonna make one of your testicles fall off. I don't know. There's a million of them out there. I remember there was one
It's so
that
frustrating.
I remember there was one I grew up in I my parents, bless them, but they sent me and a friend of mine to this camp, a church camp, one summer,
Mm-hmm.
and the church camp's focus was sex ed. Now, luckily, this church,
Best place to learn.
well, they taught me where the clit was, which that's kind of funny, ironically.
Really?
They didn't mean to.
I never knew what the clit was till I was a full-grown adult. Didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
I have one, and I didn't know what it was.
I remember that story. Anyway, yeah, the church camp taught me that, but they didn't. They didn't. Of course, then the idea of them to give them legitimacy was they brought real science into it. Don't make no mistake. They 100% pushed that narrative of, you know, abstinence only. Right? They 100% pushed that. And I can tell by the tactics they used. Like, for example, yes, they did send us into these little group areas where we would learn basic anatomy. So they did do a close up of, the male and female genitalia. So, and yes, they did have a diagram that showed where the clit was. So, yeah, that's how I found it. They didn't really talk about it too much, but they were like, "Oh, that's the sensitive spot." That's all they said, and that's all I needed to hear. That's the only positive thing that I learned at that camp. But the rest of it was all spent around all the various diseases and infections you can get through sex. And I remember the one that scared me the most was apparently there was one that could make your urine as thick as melted cheese. Apparently.
Ew.
And apparently it was only one that only men could get. Now, I don't remember what it was called. I just remember they showed a picture of it. And
Scare you into submission.
It worked for about a month. until I was finally able to focus on other things and kind of forget about it for a little while.
I think that stuff traumatized me because, like I said, I'm obviously it's good to get tested regularly, but I would get so nervous after every time I encountered I slept with somebody different because I was like, oh my god, what if I have something? So I got all the stuff like you're gonna get AIDS and you're gonna die. That was always the training, and your vagina's gonna smell like fish forever, and it's like, oh no.
I think if it smells like fish, that's the least of your problems. I said what I said.
I'd rather a vagina that smells like fish than one I don't have any rights over, but
Yeah. Okay. It's this whole situation just pisses me off exponentially. I just keep thinking about I'm just thinking, all right, I'm gonna be honest. The big thing that I was thinking about is the people that are in my life personally that I love dearly. All right, I have sisters who have children, right? But they chose to have those children.
Yeah.
Right? They had the choice. They didn't, you know what I mean? There wasn't, you're going to have this baby. It was, do I want to have this baby? You know what I mean? Or they said, I'm actively choosing to have a baby. My brother, because we've all the consequences we've talked about, his partner is a Hispanic woman. If this gets overturned, the government could decide he's not allowed to marry her. He may not even be allowed to sleep with her because it won't produce a white baby. You know what I mean? Because, let's face it, racism is definitely a part of it. What about my niece? I have a niece who's half Hispanic. My brother's daughter, who's from another woman. She's half Hispanic. I can't fathom the idea. She's 8 years old. What kind of world is she gonna grow up in if this happens? I have an 8-year-old sister who I love dearly, and it terrifies me the idea that she could grow up in her teen years without Roe v. Wade's protections, without proper education. It scares the shit out of me. I don't have any kids of my own, so I've settled on the idea of just being a good uncle and a good older brother, because I have a sibling young enough to be to be my own child. So I just figured, you know what, I'll just be a great older brother, and I'll try to be a great uncle, and that's all my goal is. And I can't not think about them when this comes to my mind. I think about my brother, I think about my sisters, and I don't want them to live in a world where they don't have these protections, because it's, and Mother's Day just passed too on top of that. And you saw the post I posted about my mom. I don't know if you read it or not.
I didn't read it. No,
That's
I'm sorry. I did see something that you posted something.
Yeah, I posted on Facebook. I was talking about my mom briefly, about how this Mother's Day I had a brand new appreciation for my mother, because my mother chose to have me and my brother. She didn't have to have them. She had Roe v. Wade's protections available to her. She even thought about, aborting my brother because she had 2 miscarriages, because he was almost a triplet. Anyway, but the point
There's so much danger. Like my mom, she ended up having a lot of kids. She had 6,
Mm-hmm.
chose to have each of them, but then
Mm-hmm.
by the time she had me, she chose to have her tubes tied.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really frustrating because there's people in the church who would like discuss whether or not that was sinful, that she chose to do that, chose to stop having kids. And she's talked to me before about how she felt guilty, but also felt like she wasn't able to give enough time and attention to the kids she already had. And I just think that's so frustrating. And it's like, I love my best friend right now, that I grew up with, but right now she's married. She just, a couple days ago had her first little girl, and I'm so excited for her,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm scared for her little girl.
Her little girl's gonna grow up in a world without
and
Roe.
and it makes me nervous that, and this weird notion, and I remember her talking about that, because she was saying how, like, oh no, we'll just have kids whenever it happens, because they're like, she's once again like part of this like no birth control thing. And I'm like, it's great right now with 1 baby, but what happens, like, if you end up super fertile and you end up with 10 and you can't afford to take care of all of it? And it's like, there's just no thought to the quality of life for any of the kids you're going to end up bringing into the world through this.
Yeah.
As somebody who was part of a big family, my mom tried her best, but like, I think like having as many kids as she did was a mistake, because I went to high school with a 4th grader's education. That's not healthy, because it's not that she didn't love me, it's not that she didn't care, it's that she could not keep up with that many kids. She had 6 children and was a farmer and was working. Like, and it shouldn't just, like, part of being a good mom is choosing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for me, because of how I grew up, I don't plan on having any more than 1 kid. Like, if I end up with twins or whatever, that's one thing. But like, and right now it is kind of like I've thought about it, because I originally didn't want to wait super long because of my infertility issues.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, even though I do plan on moving in with Bogey and stuff like that soon, I don't think I would try for any of that anytime soon, because it's it's scary. It's really scary because of what you're bringing them into. It's polarizing, and once again, if you have a daughter, what kind of world is going to be left behind for them?
They're really not leaving, and this is where we're gonna talk about some of the consequences in this part of the section, because I'm thinking about it, trying to think about it from not only just from a what would I do in your shoes perspective, right? Like a woman's shoes perspective. Yeah. But also listening to the women on TikTok. I have saved so many testimonials about what they think the consequence was, like, how they're scared for their own lives, because like various states are also like putting miscarriages, potential, like, want to investigate miscarriages as abortions. So that means that cops could be arresting women for a natural bodily function. And and I was reading the comments on that video, and there were dozens of women in there who had 4, 5, 6, 7 miscarriages before they finally successfully had a kid. And I can't help but think about how all these women could be potentially sitting in a jail cell just because,
because it's so upset. Like, you're getting punished because, like, your body didn't work properly or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, women are not fucking machines. It's not like you put a coin and then you get a soda back.
Yeah, it's not like
it's more complicated than that. It's like these fucking idiots who don't know where the fucking clit is are trying to determine, like, how a pregnancy works. I'm my most of my family has said like I'm the oddball, but most of my family they've been very fertile. So things like miscarriages hasn't been something I've seen a lot of. But my oldest sister, our second oldest,
Hmm.
I remember her going through that. She had a few miscarriages before she was able to have her beautiful little girl Bella.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember how hard that was for her, and she felt so much guilt, like, like what's wrong with me? Like why won't my body do this for me? And it's like it's so frustrating. Like it's already hard enough. And it's this weird idea that women are meant to be like this floating baby making machine is so unhealthy and disturbing. And it's this weird it's more the prioritizing of your future factory workers over any kind of quality
Yeah, because that's it.
is
That's another part of
absurd.
this. That's another part of this. They're trying to force, they're trying to force, us to make babies because our generations are not having babies because we can't afford it. So they're trying to force us to do it so they have a future workforce.
And I was just talking about it. I wasn't allowed to have a stimulus. I never got one stimulus throughout the entire pandemic. I worked pretty much full time the entire time. Customer service right up with people, no stimulus. And it's frustrating because it's like I really want to move on and start my like quote unquote adult life. I have things I'd really like to do. I'm looking forward to. And it just feels like it's an uphill battle. Like right now, it's like I have to plan out so far ahead of time to have any time with my friends with my partner because it's like your entire life has to center around unfulfilling, depressing work in order to survive basic things. I
Yeah,
it's like your youth is completely taken from you.
yeah, that's
There's
exactly.
like there's no
And then at some point in all of that, the government, these right wing fascist fuckheads, think that you should be in a kitchen somewhere pregnant.
I you know what?
While
That's
on top
honestly
of all that,
it's so frustrating for me because I'm actually that person who would love that. I would love to be able to spend all day at home baking cookies, whatever the fuck, and I want to have a kid so bad. I wanted to have a kid my entire life. But I don't want to have a kid I can't properly take care of. And I can barely properly take care of myself because it's so expensive to be alive.
no,
And it's like, what are you doing trying to force people who can't take care of themselves to take care of another person?
yeah, I
Those
can't
kids are
disagree
going to
with
have
that.
all the kids that are going to be forced into existence are going to have such a poor quality of life because these parents are at some point I want to send it to you and I hope you'll get a chance to watch it. It's an old documentary. It's from the early 2000s
Mm-hmm.
called Bowling for Columbine, and they don't just talk about the shooting but they talk a lot about like what moms are going through. And there's like one mom who's having to work full time for minimum wage, over full time for minimum wage, and she couldn't afford to keep rent and have a home for her and her kids.
And let's not talk about that. Also, we're talking about the consequences of that if we don't fight, if we just go, if we or if we lose. That's really the consequences so far we've talked about. We've talked about the consequences that if we lose, you know what I mean, with all the protests, like maybe this doesn't pressure them, or even after it's fallen down, we don't fight in whatever level we're doing it, with protests, riots, whatever, you know. Um, we're talking. That's the future we're talking about so far. We're not even talking about one of the things that I
What's going
think
on currently.
yeah, here's the things I also think are going to happen. I want to go ahead and throw some predictions, some consequences that I think are bound to happen because of this, right? Assuming, because let's face it, we're not going to go down without a fight. You know what I mean? You ladies are not going to go down without a fight. You will deny every man you know sex. You will, you know what I mean? As
That's the best
that's
protest. Watch all
that's
the guys. That's the only thing that men really expect.
that's
um,
oh, that's the light end of this,
the
by the way.
sex for.
That's the nice part. The denial of sex, that's the nice part. Right? It could be so much worse. We're talking about women who, oh, my husband's conservative. Oh, I slipped with the scissors. Sorry, hubby. You know, and I honestly I couldn't blame them. That's just one instance. That's just one. I don't think that anyone. I don't think most people will go that route. But I'm just saying, if your husband's conservative and says, "Well, you're gonna have my baby," and you snip something off, well, you know what? He had it coming. Anyway, I said what I said. I'm not encouraging it. I'm just saying that that's what my opinion on it would be. I'm just saying.
Somebody who's had a few recent run-ins I've discussed with you before with
Mm-hmm.
men who've abused me in the past. It's if there wasn't so many consequences for murder, I definitely would have a higher body count.
Yeah, I
Let's
believe you.
just say that.
The other thing is that here's another thing that I think will be a consequence is you will see like all right. So one of the things that yes, Barrett wants I think Barrett wants this to happen, Justice Barrett, and one of the things because she wants more babies in the foster care system. Well, let me tell you, if I was a
A
woman
fucked up
forced
thing
to
to
carry
want.
a baby to term, that's the first place I'd put it. I'd be like, nope, fuck you, and then just out of spite. And you're then she's not going to get what she wants. She's thinking, oh, nice supply. No, we're talking about a already overexpanded, overflown foster care system that doesn't have the funds necessary to house, feed, clothe, educate all these children already. Right? We're talking about that 1,000 times more than that they've seen in history. Because I'm sorry, but I'm just saying, like, if I was a woman and forced to have a baby, I'm not going to take care of it. I'm not going to. I'm going to make the state take care of it. And like, no, you forced me to have it. You take care of it. That's how I would look at it if I was in your shoes. So, and I do think that there's going to be a percentage of women that will do that, right? Um, that's the first thing. What's one of the negative consequences? And they're thinking like, oh, see, we got all the white babies you wanted. That's enough. The TikTok joke. That's enough slices.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to be happening to the. They'll start denying people. They're going to say no, we don't want your kids. No, they're yours. You take them.
You know what all the
Or you'll get dumpster
straight
babies.
what
That'll
all
be another thing that'll
the
happen again.
poor sorry sucker straight women should start doing?
Hmm.
You're talking about this whole thing because a lot of it is a push to encourage white people to have more babies. It's been a big part of it because racism.
Yeah. Now we should all just start boning
No,
people of color.
don't actually. You know what? I
Is
was
that what the joke you were gonna make?
yeah. You skipped the
I'm sorry.
punchline.
No, sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say like you don't have to fast. Actually, create more. Yeah, and also it's a protest against them trying to get rid of things like mixed race marriage. So like,
Hmm.
oh fuck you, I'm gonna put more babies in the foster system, and it's gonna
Yeah, the ones you don't, the ones
I'm
that
just
they
kidding.
don't.
I do not encourage people to make children that are going to have to be traumatized and put
Right.
through a horrible system.
Yeah, we're not. We're
Please
not.
do not do that.
Yeah, we're not advocating for that. That's just a joke to deal with a
Obviously, I
very
think it's
stressful
it's cruel to
situation.
force you to have a baby, but don't traumatize the child that is then created because of
Yeah.
that.
I'm just
Tom's a
and I'm
joke.
just saying that like as a consequence, I do think that there will be a percentage of women who will put their children in foster care because they were forced to make them in the first place.
Yeah, well, some people they can't afford to have children. Like even if they wanted to have a baby, they wouldn't have a way to take care of it. you
Also,
know and I don't always think it's like a matter of like cruelty. I think for a lot of women it's just like there isn't any other choice for them.
yeah. Also, you remember like there were jokes like on Family Guy for years ago, but it happened. Things like dumpster babies. There's going to be babies that just get born in a back alley and tossed in a dumpster because you
That's
know
happened before.
yeah, that's happened before, and I think you'll see a lot of that too because the right wing forced these women to have these unwanted children. But that's if and that scenario they still won, right? In that scenario, the right wing won. But one of the other consequences that I'm also thinking about is like, for example, that remember earlier we talked about the story where there are states that want to basically put women in prison for miscarriages. Well, if I was a woman and I knew that I could potentially go, to the death penalty, get the death penalty for a
Oh,
miscarriage,
Jesus.
for a natural body function, you okay?
Yeah, Podrick just decided to jump on me. He scared me. I didn't even know he was in the room. It's okay, buddy. You can come up here. You can all use a little cuteness.
Yeah,
That's
but
how I just got a jump scare.
yeah, but I'm just saying,
It's
like,
really
if I
cool.
was in those women's shoes, I can't help but think maybe I might have a better luck if I fought or took some of the cops with me. I'm not saying I want that. I'm making a prediction that I think that that's going to happen too. You're going to have dead cops and soldiers from women who say, well, if you're going to kill me for having a natural body function, I might as well take you with me. And,
I think I would like to see more violent women just to see how
oh,
men feel to get the same treatment back. I know it's not the PC thing to want, but sometimes I just wish, like, you know what? Like, what if we actually did physically
I,
fight back, you know?
I'm already seeing that, by the way, on TikTok. I have
Really?
seen multiple women talk about how they have no problem putting, you know, like they don't directly say that they're going to shoot cops or anything like that who come to arrest them for these crimes. They just say that they're not going to go to jail for it, and then I hear like a off camera. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like they're holding something that I can't see that's below the camera line or something. So which I assume is a gun, and there's women who are, talking about, like, I saw one lady talking about how, we're not going down without a fight, and like you will see, and like one lady I saw said something about seeing, like, you'll see riots like you've never seen before. And I was like, oh damn, this is serious. So men, I'm just saying, I'm not going to be surprised if this gets overturned and a bunch of women turn violent. I'm not, and by the way, for any law sticklers out there, I'm not promoting this behavior. I'm just simply predicting that I think it will happen. You
Um,
know,
Controversial opinion. I am pro at least somewhat violent protests. I think it works better if the police initiate it and turning violent and then you fight back.
and win. I'm
But
just kidding.
throughout history, the only protests that seem to really make the difference in the long run were the ones that turned violent. I
I
think that
mean,
sucks,
the
but
Stonewall riots
if
are a
you,
prime example.
I'm sorry, but people talk about like, oh, you get more, traction through peaceful. It's just not true.
Yeah,
It sucks because I'm somebody who does not like violence, but um, we didn't,
they're not. Yeah, they're not.
Hitler wasn't defeated by shaking hands with him. If somebody's not willing to listen to you, then you got to bring a big stick with you to the fight.
Yeah,
That's
and
as the old saying goes.
look, and yeah, like, and we're not advocating for violence. We're just simply not disapproving of if people choose to get violent.
I am. I am. I'm pro women going violent, to be honest. Um,
I'm definitely not going to get in the way.
I'm a little bit too much of a chicken for that. But I think like especially if you're in a, I'm not saying like people should start doing like terrorist attacks or stuff, but I am
Hmm.
very much pro fighting back.
Yeah, we're talking about self
I think,
defense, not.
yeah, like
Yeah, at the end of
like
the
say
day,
like
at
one of
the
these like say one of the cases where like these women who are getting tried for literal miscarriages, not even
mm,
abortions, miscarriages.
yeah,
I think like if somebody tries, like taking one to prison, like fight them back, force like,
yeah, they want to.
protest, block the way, like do what you have to. Say no, we're not going to let this
I
happen.
mean,
You
honestly,
know.
I wouldn't be shocked if, like, the first time they put a woman on the death penalty for it, like the day that she's supposed to get executed, I wouldn't even be shocked if, like, a team of women with guns showed up and was like, let her go, or we're gonna kill everybody in the room. And I'm gonna be watching the news, going, well, who could have predicted this?
Mhm.
I'm telling you,
I'm just saying, like,
you're gonna see
if they're
Kavanaugh's
literally
head on a
threatening to
pike.
start killing us now for natural bodily functions, then I don't see where it's at all wrong to fight back.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sorry, that's
that's
called self-preservation, not like starting a riot.
yeah. At this point, I'm not seeing and I'm not promoting violence. I'm just simply predicting that it will happen, and I'm not going to be shocked because I do think it will happen. I don't want violence to happen. If I had my way, hopefully, the positive hope that I have, which is probably naive, is that all these protests will scare, because, like, obviously Kavanaugh had protests happen at his house. Yeah, did you know that, Justice Kavanaugh, the one that's got
As I
a
said, you've been, I had no idea any of this was going on. You were the one who brought to me that even there was Roe v. Wade was getting turned away. You are the only one. You're the only access to the outside world I have right now, to be honest, when it comes to that kind of news, because I will not talk to my parents about it because I
It's
know what side they're on.
the
And
wrong one.
I do not, I'm not prepared to look at it myself because sometimes it's like a little triggering,
No.
So having a
Well,
little bit of cushioning in between
so
helps.
do you know who Justice Kavanaugh is, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So you're
Fucking date
aware.
rape.
Yeah.
Little,
Basically,
little,
he had
it
a
was in college. It's fine.
he had a protest of like 100 people outside of his house, yelling things
Good.
like "Our body, our choice."
The
And
fucking audacity that, like, the reason why the big thing why he's being contested was because of an assault charge, and now he's even doing more to assault all women.
pretty much. The other thing is that that happened is funny enough. There are like one of the talking points right wingers try to say, well, how do you think the neighbors feel about this? Who do you think was at that protest? That was Kavanaugh's neighbors. Were outside his house protesting him, doing that because it's a leak. At the end of the day, it's nothing's official. I think until like next month. That's when they're
Good.
supposed to do the official hearing about it and decide for themselves. This was just a preliminary like leak of their discussion. That's what all
It
the
sounds like a chicken screaming outside. It keeps weirding me out.
it's probably fate getting pissed off that we're challenging him.
I'm sorry if I'm making any weird faces. It's not you. It's weird noises coming from outside. I'm not willing to check it. It's too dark out. But
Understood. I wouldn't either. Not without a pew pew available. But yeah, it's my prediction is like yeah, if these protests do not, and by the way, Justice I think it's Thomas said something about how these protests were like his comment was the American people just need to get used to not having outcomes that they want from the Supreme Court. We will not be bullied.
what is this supposed to be for?
This is
They're supposed to be servants of the people. It's such fucking bullshit. I'm sorry, it's one thing if not everybody is going to be happy, but it should be at least they should be making changes in what the majority of the people want. The fact that the minority is right now controlling everybody is so fucking asinine. It's like, I'm sorry, are you a white straight male who's moderately wealthy? No? Okay, well we don't care about your opinion or what matters, what affects you.
yeah,
It's
because
like
you're not the front
and you
line
wonder why
right
people
now.
are infuriated? I'm sorry, if we're in a democracy, the then why would everybody be so fucking upset with all the decisions being made?
Yeah.
Well, it stopped. Nope, he's going again.
Oh,
Somebody's got to shoot that rooster. He's driving me crazy.
oh, okay. It's a rooster. I thought maybe you had made accidentally had one of your folks who are on the right wing want to come in and yell at us about this.
Oh gosh, no. I hope nobody can hear me from up here. Not that I have a ton of privacy, but I at least have a little bit.
Yeah, the last thing I need is we
I knew it
need
was some
that.
kind of critter. I'm trying to figure out what it was because it sounded weird. It sounds like somebody screaming and then screaming. I think it's just a rooster pissed off because my mom has a shit ton of chickens. She
And
don't usually hear him this late at night.
yeah,
He
but
sounds weird. He sounds like maybe it's another cock upset about somebody speaking out against what he's got to say.
accurate. Oh my god, it's so infuriating what's happening though. It's just I literally have been like just thinking about this all day. This what we're doing right now. It's just because this whole situation is so infuriating. I mean, we're the consequences are dire. They truly are. Like we're talking about like bodily autonomy for everyone. We're talking about racial issues, LGBT plus issues. I mean, they're already doing like attacking trans people, you know, left and right with all various legislation. Like they just banned in one state, I can't remember which one, but they just banned in one state um, transgender youth getting affirming care. And we're not even talking
There's
just
been a big issue. Kentucky right now, they're trying to ban transgender women in particular from participating in high school sports.
yeah
And it literally, there's only one transgender high school student that is known of
in like the whole
who's like
state.
in sports. So you're passing a law to bully a 12-year-old was basically, it was so upsetting watching this little girl go up on stand explaining like, hey, this is why I would really like to be able to just play with my classmates, and it's just like, it's so upsetting. It's literally taking candy away from a baby. Like, what's your deal?
Yeah.
This little girl wants to be able to, play whatever it was. I think it was like badminton with her friends and compete. That's all she wanted to do.
Oh my
And
god.
she wasn't allowed to because it triggered Republicans to.
No. But like also on top of that, like I saw another state's law was saying that they wanted to ban like even social transitioning. Like for example, if any trans individual starts wearing the clothes of the gender that they're not assigned for, like we're talking about CPS going to their house, which basically doesn't. But here's the thing: that doesn't even just apply to trans people. That applies to cis people. I mean, you're not
Yeah,
exactly wearing a sundress right now. You
she's
know?
wearing a plaid. I mean, thinking about like even when I just shaved my head because my hair was dead this last summer. Like,
Yeah.
I had a bunch of people ask me about that. I'm like, it's just because it's not because, and for me, it wasn't anything like that. I very much identify as a female, and I don't plan on changing that. You know, it, it doesn't matter. It's called like, hey, my hair is dead. I need to start over again, and look how fluffy this is. Totally worth it. But there was this weird upset. I remember my okay. I don't know if I've told you this story. So this last
Mm.
Christmas, I still had my hair so much shorter a few months ago because it had only grown out so far. Um,
Should start
I had
introducing
this
yourself
little
as Kevin.
nephew,
It'd be funny.
was my oldest, my oldest sister's, her second oldest little boy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there with Bogey. We're having our little Christmas dinner, sitting there chatting. I'm hanging out with my little dude,
Mm-hmm.
and he looks over at me. He's like, why is your hair short like a boy? I'm like, oh, well, I just, I felt like cutting. It's nothing like that. And he said, and this little boy yelled at me, boys are boys and girls are girls. Now, I know he doesn't just like think that. It's because he's been trained to think that. And it's like, why are you? And then my sister was so embarrassed about like, oh my god, I can't believe Gavin just said that. Like, oh, didn't mean to have him offended. And it's like, I understand he's a little kid. He doesn't understand the consequences of saying things like that. But like, imagine
He had to
he
learn
now
it from
takes that and starts
somewhere.
bullying his little classmates because something was, you know, a little bit off. And because this stuff is being trained in him, keep in mind, my nephew is about 4 years old now, and he's already thinking things like that and saying things like that because he's been so instilled with this. And it's like, now he's going to be like, you're encouraging, at that point, you're training your kid to become a bully. Like, what if he's, this scares me. I don't, and and that was I have another little nephew, uh, Joey, and my brother-in-law, not the one who's the father of him, but he would constantly get upset because sometimes Joey wanted to do, participate with things his sisters were doing, like painting their nails and stuff. And it's like, who cares? None of these things matter at all. You should let the kids be able to express themselves and have fun. And
Yeah.
I remember my brother-in-law, he pulled him aside. It's like, no, you can't do that. It's for girl. I remember they're putting flowers in their hair. He asked me to put a flower in his hair. It's like, and I remember my brother-in-law giving me like getting so upset with me over that because I just like I didn't encourage him to. He asked me and I was like, yeah, like why would I care if he wants to put a flower in his hair? And it's this weird thing where they're obsessed with rules that don't matter, and then you're gonna then be embarrassed because where did my son get some to say something like that? I'm like, because you're constantly saying things like this. Little kids are soaking up whatever you're saying and spitting it out, and you're training him to become hateful. And it's so sad because he's a great little guy, and I hope he unlearns it because he's gonna end up being a real mean adult if he keeps, down this path. But it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's not totally on top of what we're talking about. I guess it's still,
It's
you know,
related to it though. It really is because all of that, all this hatred is learned behavior. The only thing that I can think of is the reason it's happening is like Kavanaugh is actually young enough to know better at this point. Honestly, he grew up during all this. He should have unlearned some of this stuff at this point in his life. Like I follow TikTok creators who are the same age as Kavanaugh. He should know better. And same with Amy Coney Barrett or whatever her name is. Uh,
yeah.
they're young enough to know better. And You know, like I'm not surprised by just the old justice who's mad about like protesters and saying, "Well, we're not going to be swayed by protesters." I'm like, that tells me you're scared. Also, did you notice when the first protest that popped up, they started fencing the Supreme Court building already? From one protest that was peaceful, they already sprung up a big fence. Like one of the fences that's up is electrified too, by the way. So tells me something. And this is another woman that was at that protest pointed this out. She's like, why'd you do that? It was a peaceful protest. Nobody came in the building. Nobody threw anything at the building. Why'd you erect a
I would
fence
like to
already?
believe it's just PTSD from the insurrection that happened
I mean,
this last year.
possibly, but
But the fact that, like, it's just so weird because generally when Republicans have protested, it's become a lot more violent and they bring guns, but yet there's more fear and outrage over any type of liberal protest, whether it's Black Lives Matter or any feminist protest. It's always seen as a huge hostile thing. And it's like,
yeah,
it's so frustrating. It's like we're just not taken seriously. I was telling you a little bit about how Carolyn and I we were watching the film Promising Young Woman, and it's written by it's definitely like based off of a lot of very common woman experiences, except a little bit of a revenge fantasy played out, which is nice. Kind of a little icing to help swallow down the nails
the bullshit.
is the best way I can put it. The actual shit.
Yeah,
And it's so frustrating because a lot of it has to do with you know how women are given so many consequences for things they don't have control over, and a lot of it is like you're instead getting punished for being drunk and getting drugged rather than somebody doing something horrible to you. And in the one case,
yeah,
it's so frustrating because I've seen, and it's not like this movie's pulling this out of thin air, because this type of stuff, as a girl, I've seen this happen in person before.
yeah.
All these guys, they take turns assaulting a woman and record it, and they're laughing, it's so funny, ruins this girl's lives, and pretty much and she gets ostracized and embarrassed and harassed in college, whereas he gets praised, ends up getting to graduate with honors, gets as respected among the communities, cases dismissed even with that. And it was really upsetting to see that, because it's the type of thing. It reminded me, like, there was different scenes that really brought me back to a lot of my own stories, things that I'd kind of like locked away and hadn't thought of. One of the last like real house parties I went to would have been like back in 2019. I was there with one of my guy friends who was gonna like DD for me. Pretty much it was my first like real house party. So basically like, oh hey, just so you know, like when the dancing's going on, keep up against the wall, otherwise somebody will grab your ass and start grinding on it and stuff. Like basically giving me like the rules and stuff and how to avoid things. And I was having a good time. I was smoking. I was getting really drunk, and after a while, I ended up dizzy enough. I was kind of sitting on the floor. I was out of it, and I was kind of just, like leaning on his shoulder type thing. Instead of having people come up and ask like about like, hey, if I was okay, do you need, somebody to take her home? I had I was kind of out of it at the time, but there was guys coming up and asking him like, hey, we've got a few private rooms upstairs. Do you want us to like give you a room to yourself? I mean, I was lucky enough that I was in a situation where he didn't do that. But the fact that, like, the natural impulse is, hey, let us give you privacy so that you can kind of have fun with this girl who's completely drugged out and can barely walk. And that's the natural impulse. And I saw that at every party I went to. And I ended up pretty much getting to the point where I wouldn't even go with him because uh, I did have some bad experiences. And I remember the last house party I went to, once again, I was with one of my other really good female friends, and we were there, and I had guys let me drink, and instead of people at all trying to be like, oh, she's really out of it, maybe get her home, people were trying to push me into his room. This wasn't even somebody I was dating at the time. And luckily I had somebody there who got me out of that situation. Because at the time I didn't really think about it because I had been drinking, but she's like, I'm pretty sure you were roofied because you had like a couple drinks and all of a sudden you were like out of it. Like you were acting completely like you went from like being like maybe a little tipsy to fucked up. And I've seen this so many times to the point where it ruined the idea of it for me. Like I literally will only have like tiny like parties with my friends where I will only drink with like a couple of people because it just got ruined for me.
You know, I've actually
And it's
never been
just
a fan of the party scene, to be honest. I've only been to a handful of like house parties in my life, you know, because I was never cool enough to get invited to them, I guess. Um,
well, maybe try being an attractive girl with big boobs
yeah,
and you would have plenty of
yeah. That's my fault, obviously. Actually, you know, I'm the
yeah.
wrong. I was the wrong sex, clearly. So I didn't get invited to. I do have one house party experience that's like wild, but nothing like what you just described. And I don't really have too much experience with that, but that sounds pretty horrible.
And it's frustrating because I honestly am fairly lucky compared to some of the girls I've met. And whenever we trade stories, it's so frustrating because whenever any of us try to talk about what we've been going through, it's just like, oh well, not all men. And it's like, one, we're not even saying that, and two, yes it is, because even if you're not the one doing this to me, you put aside, like, I ended up cutting off this guy friend because he knew and was friends with the guy who originally had assaulted me. He kept being friends with him, and he was nice about it, but like as I said, like at like not to be too graphic, but like no, he didn't do anything to me that night like when I was out, but I remember when I was sleeping, I woke up to him trying to touch me. And it's just so frustrating because it's like, but he was a nice guy, and he always told me like, I feel so bad about like what he did to you and stuff. It was part of why I dropped out of college, all this bull crap. And it it's infuriating. So I'm like, I'm sorry, even if you're not the one doing this, you're benefiting it, because like he got to benefit because it's like, oh, I'm not the one who did this and I was friendly to you and I never forced anything on you originally. And it's so frustrating because even the nice guys, it's like they like that there's these men who are absolutely awful because they get to be the good guys and they don't have to try it all. The least they basically have to just not physically assault you, and they're considered a saint. The bar is on the ground.
To quote one lady from TikTok, the bar's not on the ground, it's subterranean.
And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating because it's like I'm very pro the Johnny and Amber Heard case, and it's frustrating when I see like the people who are using this to be like an anti-feminist, and it's like, one, this is beneficial to it, and it's frustrating because it's like trying to use it as an excuse of, see, like these women have been lying, and it's like it's frustrating because it's like finally you're caring when it's somebody you can relate to, but when we've been talking about for years what we've been going through and just pleading for somebody to listen to us, we don't get anything. And I remember like, and it's frustrating because it's women too. I remember talking to my mom about some like starting to open up, and what I got was, well, think about the way you're dressing, and if you just were less this. And it's frustrating, and I've seen the same thing from so many. I remember even there was one girl I was friends with all throughout childhood, and when I opened up to me about what happened, she ended up cutting me off because, well, why didn't you do anything about the time? Why are you telling me now? And it's so frustrating because it's like we keep saying this is happening, and it's like, if I pretend not to hear or see, maybe it'll go away. It's like me ghosting my ex-boss when she's asking me to come back into work, except much more dire situations where it's like I'm going to pretend I didn't see that missed call because I don't want to acknowledge it.
I'm just over here like just
It's,
ugh.
and I remember like, and I understand why a lot of women don't want to come out about things. I remember coming out about what I went through, and I got so many harassing messages calling me a liar, a slut, like I just everything you can imagine because they didn't want to believe it was one of their friends. And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating because it's like, and it's just the excuses and this obsession with coercion, just anything to make sure we don't have any kind of say.
And now they got the government backing them up to bring it back full circle. Because let's face it, there's tons of laws in the book that basically help, guys who take advantage of women now. Too. They're also like, think about it. There's already making laws like, for example, if a rapist rapes a woman, he can sue her for custody of the children. Like,
Yeah.
that's insane. He shouldn't have
There's a
access.
case like that where there was like I think it was a 14-year-old girl who was going through this, and of course she didn't want this abuser around who was much older than 14, let's just say that.
Well,
And the fact that it was even like a question.
so yeah, like one lady say that like you're either a pro forced birther or a pro rapist. We're no longer or pro rapist rights. That we're no longer gonna call you pro life or whatever. Like that's one of the things I've been seeing a lot on TikTok.
There's nothing pro-life about it. You don't even care about the children who do exist.
Yeah, they don't.
I'm not getting my cats fixed because I hate kittens and I don't want cats around. It's because I don't want to create more children that aren't going to get the best care they're going to get.
Yeah. But you try telling that to a right winger, they don't care. They because here's the thing. I'm to quote George Carlin, they need live babies so they can have dead soldiers. That's another part of it too, by the way. Think about it. I'm not wrong. Think about it. The United States is the world police, the self-appointed world police. So think about it. We send soldiers left and right to go die in random places in the world. And eventually I'm not gonna tell me I'm wrong. Eventually that might mean Russia too, to go fight there because they're in the middle of fighting one of our allies, the Ukraine. So I mean, maybe this is a bit conspiracy, but I'm just saying we're in the middle of a conflict over fighting a truly evil person. Like we're not going to twist it. I'm not going to twist it. Putin is an evil person. What he's doing to the Ukraine is wrong. But I'm just saying, it seems to me like this might be an excuse to put because think about it. What happens if Ukraine wins that war? There are allies.
Don't look at me. I don't know anything about policy.
All right. Well, there are allies, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it depends on how badly they win. Like I don't know. Their president is very progressive. He might just decide we won. Now stick it. We kicked them out of our house, and that be the end of it. But how do I know that the United States won't say no? You gotta go claim Russia for yours. How do we know that the United States won't like?
I'm anti-Russia, but I don't trust the United States either. I think would be like.
I think that's a fair position. Honestly, I don't trust my own government. Heck no. I mean, we've got do-nothing Democrats, and we've got, vile, evil Republicans. So it's kind of like, golly, I've got a side who can't seem to do a damn thing, and a side who's all about doing everything evil. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that anyone doesn't want to trust them. And the only saving grace is that with the midterms is that the Republicans might lose because people are going to be pissed off that Roe got overturned. And make no mistake, it's already being said that if Roe can get overturned, it can a nationwide abortion ban is possible. That is a quote from Mitch McConnell. So he argues that it's a states' rights issue, but once it's said and done and turned into a states' rights issue, he now just wants to do the same law but the reverse of Roe v. Wade. You know what I mean? He's going to ban abortion across the board.
Jesus, Patrick, no, baby, you gotta be careful.
I'm also going to point out something that maybe some right-wing government types need to think about since they're doing this idiocy. In Romania, this very thing happened. The law that bans abortion happened. And then you know what happened? A surplus, like, you know what I was talking about earlier of unwanted children in their foster care? Yeah, that happened because a lot of women in Romania, like I predict what women will do here, angrily gave up all their children to foster care. And I'm not talking one baby like per woman, we're talking multiple children per woman. And those children then grew up, overthrew that government, and executed that president that made an abortion ban. So, I'm just saying, for the right wing politicians who seem to think that it's a good idea to do this, if history is any inclination, it may not be Gen Z, but I guarantee you, if you're alive during Gen Z's grandchildren, which I know two Supreme Court justices that will be, you might be facing that firing squad you seem to be so willing to point at everyone else.
Boy, please stop.
You're
cute.
And I'm not. And if I'm alive to see it, I will feel no pity for when that happens. I can hear it now. This is the criminal case of former Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh. He has just been sentenced to death for crimes against the United States, for treason, and basically it'll be Gen Z's great grandkids doing it or whatever. It'll be just this wrinkled old prune of a man about to see the firing squad because it's like the only humane way we have left to kill people anymore. Because guess what? Europe has stopped selling us the drugs because they don't do the death penalty over there. Yeah, did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, the drug cocktail that we've been using for years here in the States to execute people, those drugs came from Europe, and those drug companies decided they didn't want to sell that stuff to us anymore. So now they're trying. It's kind of a cool statement, but at the same time, it's also caused some problems because we've had a lot of botched executions since like 2018. So like we are having people like convulsing on the table, like, with mucus coming out. Some people taking like 30 minutes to an hour to die because they're still because they're just experimenting on these people who have been set to be executed. They're not bothering because they're like, well, they're criminals, so what do we care, right? So they're inhumanely killing these guys, and like some of them are like choking on like their own like mucus as their, like that's like one of the things that they've done. Another one was like they fell asleep, but they could still feel things. Like you could see them like convulsing in their sleep and stuff like that. It's fucking insane. So to bring it all full circle, I mean, the whole Roe v. Wade thing is going to have consequences for right-wingers, and I think it's going to have consequences they're not ready to pay for in one way or another. Either they're going to get forced to get medical procedures they don't want, they're going to be forced to, maybe they'll be forced to make babies they don't want, because, I mean, obviously right-wing women use abortion too.
Oh gosh, have you followed like any like TikTok accounts where it's like women who work in abortion clinics and what their experiences are with like pro-life women coming in for abortions?
Oh no, but I would.
Oh my gosh, there's one girl. She was literally talking about, this woman was like, you should be like put in prison. You should be like what you're doing is so humane. Well, she was getting an abortion, but it was different for her getting an abortion. It was like the most asinine. Yeah.
I hate stupid.
It's different for me, but like it's like yeah.
Yeah, it's always different for me, right? Yeah, it's always different for me.
Not the same for me. It's not the same for me. It's not the same for me. Yeah.
That's like the sum of the right wing experience. It's rules for thee, but not for me. That's exactly what this is. Because think about it. There are even states that are talking about making laws, making it illegal for somebody to leave their state, go to another state or country and get an abortion. But the question...
that's what it gets so acidine to me. It's like, oh, well, that was always the argument before, is like, well, you know, if they want that bad, they could go elsewhere. Then it's like, oh, wait, no, 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 actually can't do that either.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, but see, here's the thing. Even if under the reversal of Roe v. Wade, that law is practically unenforceable because like if you go to Canada, right, and you go and get an abortion there, you did it in Canada. You did the United States has no jurisdiction for what you do in another country, and vice versa. Like for example, if we do something here in the States that's illegal in Canada, well guess what? Canada can't put any of our citizens in prison for something they did over here.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So like, it's kind of the same with a lot of the states. So for example, like Texas, I live in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my family has visited Colorado, and my family has partaken of a certain green plant, which we will not mention here because I don't want YouTube to have any more excuses to try to silence me. A certain green plant that is illegal, that should be legal everywhere, that is only legal in Colorado, and at that dispensary where they got it, we got like gummy bears and cookies and things like that, edibles, and it was a grand time on that little vacation, right? But that would be the equivalent of Texas saying, well, we know that you got high or drunk in another state where the laws are a little different than here, so we're going to go ahead and punish you even though you didn't do the act here. So
So
basically they're
freaking.
trying to veto jurisdiction laws now. So you see where this could get even crazier, right? Like you go to California, or what if you move to California, right? Where it's
That's
going to
what
stay
I plan on. Yeah.
yeah, like let's say hypothetically, right? Let's say you live in like Kentucky or whatever the state that's going to do this, right? What if say
Mm-hmm.
you move out of Kentucky to California? Are the is Kentucky going to send law enforcement officers to come arrest you for getting an abortion in the state that you now live in instead because you're originally from Kentucky? Like that's another thing. What's to stop them from making laws like that? They could send bounty hunters to other states
So
because the
freaking.
local police aren't going to arrest you. And then at that point, I mean, like your bounty hunters are going to die because if I don't know about you, but if I was in that situation, right? Like I'm going to kill your bounty hunters. I'm not going to care. I'm just straight up. I'm telling you, like if I was a woman in that situation and Kentucky sent bounty hunters because the cops in California aren't going to arrest me and send me back to Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that scenario, because that's because California cops are going to go, well, it's not illegal here and it's not in our jurisdiction, so we're not going to do anything about it. So Kentucky then sends a bounty hunter. Well, why would I not just kill the bounty hunter? Or I mean, what realistically should happen is the cops should just stop the bounty hunter, arrest the
Right.
bounty. That's what should happen.
God, ready for the. I'm about ready for another civil war. That's what it feels like is coming on.
I don't know if it'll be a civil war so much as more like a giant riot that scares the shit out of them. But I mean, that's what I think.
That's what it feels like if states are going to be fighting over laws.
I mean, I'll put it
There's
to
a
you
few
this
liberal
way.
states that I don't see backing down. Like I'm in New York, and I do not see, like, especially because of New York City, like them
Mm-hmm.
backing down on abortion in
Yeah,
particular.
you're
And
yeah
like
you're
we're
safe in your so far you're safe in your
yeah,
state, but the women in my state are fucked and not in the fun way.
yeah, like so I'm wondering what's good because like I would have a feeling like say like you had a sister who needed one, so she came up to stay with me, got an
Mm-hmm.
abortion, then went back home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like what's gonna happen if like say in a situation like that, like Texas tries to like, you know, prosecute her for that. Let's just say that. I would see New York as not backing down on that, like saying no,
You didn't have any jurisdiction to
like
do that. Yeah.
or like I don't know, maybe what would work better, say she was staying over here while that was going on and then
Yeah.
tried to go over there. I feel like there would be like I feel
Oh,
like
you mean like in the scenario I gave earlier, only like the sister lives in New
yeah,
York for a little while, decides to just live there
yeah,
for a
like
while,
something like that. Like
and
if
then move back
you know,
later.
yeah, like I would not see, or if like say they were like, hey, you need to release her Twix, we know she's done this illegal act, say she was hiding over there to
Yeah.
even,
Yeah, I can't
you
see.
know, I could see that starting a little, you know,
I mean,
I would
could
like to think, maybe I'm wrong, but I would like to think they would not just be like, no, you can't just like have her back to send her to prison.
I mean,
I'd
there's,
like to think that's not true. I would like to think they would give protection.
I mean, maybe, I mean, in an ideal world, that's what would happen or should happen in an ideal world. In an ideal world where, well, in an ideal world, this wouldn't even be up for debate. But
Yeah,
in an ideal world, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett and Justice, whatever his face is, the one I can't remember his name is,
Kavanaugh.
or not? No, I already said Kavanaugh. The
Oh,
one that
sorry.
the one that said that the protesters should just get used to not having their way or whatever. That one, they
Because
don't.
people throw a hissy fit. Not my president.
Yeah,
It's still President Trump. He won fair and square.
yeah. His wife, by the way, helped organize that January 6th event. By the way, the yeah. So that's another thing. Like he's actually like breaking some of the United States laws by not recusing himself in the cases that are involved in that because his wife is involved in it. And
Yeah, that should not be allowed.
no, it shouldn't. And but he's on the Supreme Court, so and it's next to impossible. I mean, like, honestly, can you do you? I don't think even if we pressured every Democrat in the whole country that's in power, we would not have enough. They wouldn't budge on impeaching any of these guys. And the only
It's so
reason,
ass.
even though
It's
they've
not
clearly
democracy.
broken the law in various ways, like in an ideal world, these
Law and
justices,
order until law and order doesn't work for me.
yeah, pretty much. In an ideal world, these justices would be sitting in a prison cell right now for even suggesting the idea of taking away a woman's right to choose, or the idea that that the government can pry into medical privacy rights. Like literally, oh, by the way, that's another thing. By the way, if Roe v. Wade goes, so do HIPAA rights and the Miranda rights. Those are other rights that are intricately connected to Roe v. Wade, which basically means you could have police officers arresting you and not telling you what they're arresting you for, because that's part of your Miranda rights. You could have doctors telling police officers all of your medical business. They could literally sell your medical records or copies of them to insurance companies, and then those insurance companies could decide, oh, I don't want to cover you because you own a gun.
Which shouldn't be an issue
Or
too, because we should have universal health care.
wait, exactly.
Anyways,
True,
sorry,
true.
not going down that road today.
But like the other thing is they could increase it on anything. Like think about it. Your doctor knows what kind of foods you eat. They could decide, oh, well, I noticed you eat at McDonald's, 3 or 4 times a week. We don't want to cover you because you're going to become obese. You may not even be obese
That's
now.
such a privacy invasive. Oh
Exactly. Think about that, because you tell your doctor what kind of
That's
food you're
fucked up.
eating so that they know if there's any kind of like food related health issues. I mean, like, what if they decide they don't want to cover me because I've been to the ER for choking hazards before? Yeah, when I was like a teenager, my parents thought it was a good idea to cook goat meat one day, and it got lodged in my throat, and I couldn't swallow.
So that's not funny, but it's something I don't know. I've never heard that as a reason to go. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. Choking hazard.
Yeah,
It just sounds like
it
what
got
would happen to like a baby.
it
Not
got
not to shame you.
well.
But
It
it's
was
like
it was goat meat. It was very tough. Like I mean, like you think like how a well done steak is tough.
yeah.
Think tougher. It was goat meat. Like I'm not. We're not talking
It's
lamb
not
chops.
funny, but for some reason it sounded funny to me, like
Yeah, we're
an
not
adult going to the ER for
yeah, it got lodged
choking
in my
hazard.
it didn't get lodged in here. It got lodged down here in my esophagus. So it was
Ooh,
yeah, so I couldn't swallow anything else. It was the problem. Like I was even spitting.
that's horrifying.
I could breathe. It was below that connection to the lungs, so I could breathe, but it wasn't in the stomach. It was somewhere in that middle section, so that's where it got stuck.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
Stop. Oh my god, that's
yeah.
creepy. Okay.
Needless to say, oh, and by the way, I got a ridiculous bill for like, I want to say like $300 for going to the ER, and they didn't even help me. They literally didn't help me. They said, "Oh nope, you're gonna have to go to this other hospital." So my mom drives
Bullshit.
me. She in her personal vehicle. She gets on the highway and she is speeding, like horribly speeding. Like we're talking like the speed limit is 60. She's going like 100 something. And the motion in the car made me queasy, and I puked it out,
Mm.
like out
Oh
the
my god.
window, and the meat came out lodged itself because I puked, because I got sick and puked. And I literally saw the chunk of goat meat just fall to the road. It was disgusting. And needless to say, so I ended up having to pay like a $300 hospital bill, and the hospital, just because they saw me. They didn't help me at all.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, our medical system does need to change. But to get back to the point, I mean, literally, what if a insurance company decides they don't want to cover me because, you know, oh, well, he got goat meat stuck in his esophagus one time, you know, which might be a silly thing to say, but they might be like, well, unless you're going to just only drink smoothies, Mr. Blair, you can't have, you know, you can't eat you can't eat hard food. You're stuck to applesauce and mashed potatoes for the rest of your life, or we're not going to cover you. You know what I mean? Like, what if they could decide to deny me a policy because I ate a Taco Bell burrito once? And they're like, well, that's
Well,
not
that thing
healthy.
talking about like medical prices, that kind of ties back into abortion and like things affecting women, because people will try to say like, oh well, part of the whole like, oh, carry it to term then give it up. One thing I've had to look into, because like of
Mm-hmm.
course I'm somebody who's like, you know, been looking into like kid stuff.
Oh, that reminds me.
Generally, the average price for a woman to have a baby in the hospital is
Oh,
$10,000.
that's a whole nother thing.
Think
Like,
about that. Like, you can't like
you'll
when you
be
can't
in
already
medical
afford a
debt
baby, you have
forever.
to pay to just have somebody help you bring the baby into the world. And generally, even if like say you have the baby on the way to the car, you still need to go to hospital, get a birth certificate, otherwise that's illegal.
And then you think about it, like, think about all the medical debt you're going to accrue because you'll be forced to have multiple babies.
Well, that's just one thing, because it's like I
Or
once
you,
again big fear, man. Yeah,
yeah. But
I'm so like it's so.
oh, here's another thing. Here's another thing, just to add to compound to that, right? Another thing I just thought about. What about all those
Oh, also my
women?
car isn't even $10,000. Keep that in mind for like how much money that would be for me.
Exactly, multiple
My car,
cars.
I'm gonna like be spending the next 3 years paying off.
Think about your medical debt. You can be
Probably
spending
more than that.
you
Let's
can
be
be
honest,
spending
because yeah.
decades paying off one child with medical debt alone. And I'm not even talking about if the child gets sick. We're talking just the
Like there's so
birthing.
many. I don't know. It frustrates me when people like try to dismiss any consequences. Like there's so many consequences. There's so many different reasons why a woman might not either want or can't have a child.
Well, here's another one. Here's another thing, right? What about the women who don't even want kids at all to begin with? The ones that literally go out of their way to find doctors who are willing to do like hysterectomies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think about those women. Oftentimes, those doctors deny those women the surgery unless
Oh,
they have had multiple abortions. They have to
my
have,
sister.
like,
Sorry.
there's a woman I follow on TikTok, or excuse me, not a woman, they them, who, you know, they used to go by she they, now they go just by they them, so I'm trying to be respectful. They got the thing done, but one of the things that they talked about is they got denied because some of the doctors said that they wanted you to have like 8 to like 10 abortions before they would even consider you for it. And there are tons of white women who just get denied because they're white. You know what I
My
mean?
sister Christine, I mean, look at like our family, very
Mm-hmm.
much white, very pale,
Mm-hmm.
mostly blue eyes in my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
She never wanted to have kids to begin with. Both of her babies are oopsies that, you know, she decided to keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all throughout growing, she's always been she's just not really a baby person, and plus very poor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she really wanted to get her tubes tied because, our family's very good at getting pregnant easily. So she wanted to just take out that, especially after her first baby.
And they wouldn't let her
And
do
she
it.
was told she would have to have at least 5 children before she could qualify.
Oh my god.
5 children. And vasectomies, like, they're cheaper. Like, that's what my sister Lizzie ended up having to do it.
No.
She had 4 kids too. Um, but like, because even like that's the only option that's even available most of the times if the guy will. Like, it's so frustrating because my sister, who's already a mom, already knows she can't afford, like, she has such a hard time um taking care of the small family she does have. But like, say like my boyfriend Bogey, 23-year-old male, very young,
Mm-hmm.
0 children, he would have an easier time sterilizing himself. He could leave, like, if he wanted to, he could just walk into a clinic, like, make an appointment, go there the next day and snip his balls off, like, be done forever. And it's so asinine because the consequences he would have for having a like getting somebody pregnant is so much less than the person who would get pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the one who's going to have my body shifted. I'm the one who's going to have all the debt because I was the one who had to go to the hospital. I'm the one who,
Whose
I'm the, like,
organs are going to be moving around to make a
yeah,
baby.
but, like,
And then you think about, like, all the cosmetic shit you'd have to deal with. Like, think about, like, you're, like, just I know this isn't really that important. At the grand scheme,
right.
this is the smallest thing. But think about this, right? Think about how shallow our society is. You'll get stretch marks, your boobs
Women
will sag, that kind of thing after
have
birth.
kids, but don't look like you've had kids.
Exactly.
That's always the thing.
And think about all these women who are like, well, I didn't even want kids, and this happened to me. You know what I mean? There are women out there who, after they have a kid, the body that they were so proud of doesn't exist anymore. You know?
Yeah.
And our society's going to
That's
punish them.
understandable.
Already punishes them for that now. How bad would it's going to be if Roe goes away? Like, think about it. Like, those women will get psychological damage. Like, they didn't even want kids at all to begin with. It just oopsies, you know, basically. Or maybe some asshole decided, you know what, you're having my kids, which that's another scary thing I'm seeing. I've seen, you know, as much as I have seen all these women come out and share their stories and talk about this situation, I have also seen some of the most vile videos and comments from men. I saw a video where a woman talked about like how she was going to fight to keep her rights. And I saw a man who I'm going to assume is a police officer because of the way he spoke. He said, I'm going to arrest you and force you to have that baby. So
so weird.
I couldn't find any, like, but I went to the video and all I saw was a bald man with a beard. There was no videos there. So I can only assume that maybe he is a police officer of some kind. I don't know if cops are allowed to have beards or not, but you get my point.
Republicans also try to pretend that citizen arrests are illegal, so
yeah, it probably is more like that. But the point that I'm getting at is like this person literally had the gall to say that to a woman, that he was gonna force her to have that baby. I saw a video of a guy wearing New York City Fire Department gear, like little stuff on his hoodie, saying that it's not your body anymore. You're gonna have my baby, whether you like it or not. He literally screamed that at a protester who was, you know, doing the "My Body, My Choice" chant at a protest. He screamed that back at her, like, "Nope, the court's decided, you lose." And he was all giddy about it. And all I wanted to do was jump through the screen and choke the life out of that guy. Like, I just literally wanted, like, X-Men Nightcrawler just poof up here and just... But now I know I can't do that, but you get what I'm saying. That's what, in the moment of watching that clip, I wanted to just appear there and, you know, choke the life out of that guy. But it's horrible. This is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing that is happening in this country right now. Nothing is more important than this issue, because so much is interconnected to it. Every issue that we care about as decent human beings is connected to this legislation in this country. So much privacy, all of the marginalized communities, LGBT, women, people of color. I think even even eugenics is related to this. Like, I'm not kidding. The government can decide who gets to breed and who doesn't based off of this stuff. I mean, honestly, if there's no right to privacy, maybe the government could even, think about it. If the government can force you to have a kid, what's to stop them from saying that, maybe they don't want fat people from having children because they make fat babies. You know what I mean? Maybe they only want pretty white people having children. You know what I mean? Like, what's to stop them? Oh, you're a person of color? We don't want you having children at all. Snip, snip. You know?
That was a lot of what was going on beforehand. Back around like World War II, America was the one who was starting a lot of that. Hitler kind of went crazy with it, so luckily that got pushed back. But yeah, a lot of that could be coming back.
Exactly. And so every issue that we care about as decent humans is connected to this. It's literally
Yeah.
it's all it explains exactly why Mitch McConnell went after like did everything that he's done for the past 50 years. This man has been just trying to I swear the man is probably a KKK member or something. I don't know if he's just been endorsed by them or whatever, but I wouldn't be shocked if he literally is a member of the KKK or some neo-Nazi group, and he is just like, I'm gonna make all the women forced to do what we want, and we're gonna make nothing but white babies, and we're gonna get rid of all the brown people, and whatever turtle face has come up, other evil shit he's come up with. I mean, I don't know, but the dude's fucking. I mean, like, also we also have Republican politicians also wanting to also limit the votes down to now too. Also, I've seen that on top of all this. We're talking about because Roe v. Wade is come up as a talking point now. Now I've seen another thing I've seen Republican politicians say is they want to limit the vote down to a household. Think about it. That means one man in the household gets to decide the vote for the entire household. They're literally trying to pull us all the way back. They're not trying to go back to the 1950s. They're trying to go back to the whatever the 1600s were before we were even a nation. Whatever kind of puritanical laws they had back then here or whatever nonsense. I don't know how far back they're trying to go, but my God. Although I will say this, Republicans better not want to go too far back, because if they bring back something like dueling, like with swords, you're going to see all of your men disappear. I promise you that. I'm not kidding. If they bring back dueling, I'm going to master the sword, and I'm going to kill as many of them in duels as I possibly can. If they bring it back, if they make it legal dueling, I'm bringing a sword, and you're just going to see heads roll from me.
I want to live in the woods in Canada and cut myself off from society at this point, to be honest.
I want a revolution.
It's exhausting, it's cruel.
I want to revolt. I want to see these guys. I'm just wishing at this point. I mean, it's just cosplay at this point. You know what I mean? But now I want to draw artwork of Mitch McConnell's head on a spike. You know.
I guess that for me, it's just it's hard, because for me it's hard to fight. It just feels hopeless. I don't know.
I mean,
it's like this. It's an exhausting cycle. And I
agree.
I get sick of fighting sometimes. I just wish that I could just live.
Yeah,
in peace.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what the most frustrating thing is? We're fighting battles that were already won decades ago. That's the other thing that pisses me off. We are fighting the same battles our grandparents and great-grandparents had to fight. Why are we still fighting these battles? These battles were supposed to be already won. And yet we still have to do this. It's ridiculous. Where do these morons... I don't know what Mitch McConnell, what his life was like growing up as a young person, but the fact that he is such a vile human being, that he would put someone like Kavanaugh in, and Barrett and all the other vile Republicans out there who want to make all these ridiculous laws. I don't know what kind of world they're trying to build outside of a white supremacist nation, but it's not a good one, I can tell you that. And honestly, I don't think that they're trying to stop at a white supremacist nation. I think they want a white supremacist empire. They're literally trying to create Hitler's dream, is what it looks like to me. I mean, think about it. Think about all the stuff they're doing. We have military bases in multiple countries out there. Our government interferes with multiple governments of other sovereign nations, either through espionage or, drone strikes or selling weapons to, various nations that aren't exactly good. I mean, the only good one that I know that we're selling weapons to is Ukraine. But that's only because they got attacked first, And on top of all that, I look at that and then I see what they're doing here at home. You know what I mean? How can I not think that that's what these fuckheads are trying to make? I mean, they want to force you to make babies. So what? To fuel their white worker class, I guess. It's disgusting. It's repulsive. It's infuriating. And so I can't think of anything else other than to fight in whatever way that we can. Sharing information, exposing these people for who they really are, in hopes, voting in voting booths. And God forbid, I hope that it doesn't come to a violent fight. I really don't want to have to go that route. But if this protest doesn't work, if the laws that we try to make in defense of these rights don't work, we may not have a choice. And that's the terrifying part. I don't want to fight anyone. I just want to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! And comic books. That's all I want to do, but I can't, because I got to think about this big piece of legislation that is the cornerstone to so many good things that are supposed to be the good things about this fucking country. Like, what's the point of there being in America if we can't choose what kind of person we want to be with? If we can't choose when we want to be parents? If we don't have the freedom to express ourselves sexually in our own homes in a way that is consenting and healthy and mutual? Like, think about it. Like, there's nothing stopping them from going into your homes and deciding what kind of sex you can do, too. Like, think about it. They stop me when I lie. If they take away privacy rights, what's to say the government can't put a camera?
Sorry. Missionary with eye contact only. You know,
exactly.
Also, actually, no. You have to make sure the woman's completely lying flat and the penis isn't going all the way, because then it might hit the clit and then it might be too pleasurable. And we need to make sure this is just for breeding purposes. Get the whole Handmaid's Tale system going up.
Yeah, and Jesus might disapprove if women enjoy sex at all. I mean, and honestly, and let's face it, the cops have no morals. Let's face it, they're gonna do whatever the law says. They're not gonna question it. I guarantee you. Like, the only shining hope I have right now is that I have seen cops run away in fear at women's protests recently.
Really?
Yeah. There was one of the first protests. There was a video in LA where the cops showed up to, started trying to arrest a guy, and a bunch of people surrounded those two cops and pulled the guy away. And the cop, with the scaredest look in his face, grabbed his partner and backed up because they realized they were surrounded.
Damn.
Yeah.
You gotta send me that. I could use that.
If I find it on TikTok again, I'll send it to you. But
okay.
It's literally the only shining light is that I have seen police officers look terrified of protesters. Also, I've noticed that Homeland Security got called into one of them for these protests, and when they were asked why they were there, they were like, So it was a peaceful protest until they showed up, and they don't know why they're there. Gee, why were they there? Let's think. We know why they were there. They're there to break up the protest. That's exactly why they were there. They just probably didn't get that order. Or maybe they did, they just were afraid to admit it. I don't know. But, yeah, I do think that there are going to be fights that break out over this. I do. I honestly think, especially like the one in the states where they're like going to criminalize women having miscarriages. Are you kidding me? If I was a woman in that scenario where I might go to get the death penalty for a natural human function. That's like that's like, oh, you blink too many times, you're going to prison, you might die. And of course, Republicans have also come out and said, oh, we're not going to give them the death penalty. We're just going to give them life in prison. Oh, like, that's so much better.
Right? I'm sorry, but, that's your whole life taken away.
Yeah, just for trying to have a kid and failing. Or maybe you didn't even know you were pregnant and miscarried. And I don't know how the government...
I think I've done that before. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember in, my last relationship, I wasn't always that careful. I remember there's a few times I had, a really extra heavy period, and I was kind of wigging myself out, I wonder? I didn't have any way of proving that. It's such a common thing. Most pregnancies don't lead to a baby because it's not a viable thing. technically, like, honestly, right now, I could be getting pregnant every month and not even knowing it. Well, not every month, but every college break, I could be technically getting pregnant and I wouldn't even know it because I'm still getting my periods.
But yeah, and
Because
think
most
about,
of the time, the majority, like, if for women who try to have kids, it takes quite a few tries generally. This weird idea that it's like everything only leads to babies. No, sex is about connection and about expression. It's not about like just procreation. It
procreation,
can
yeah.
be used for that. Oh my gosh, some of these people just need to meet a gay person just once in their goddamn life.
I don't think that most of them even care, to be honest. I don't think they even give a shit. I think this is 100% about all the stuff we've talked about. It's not even about women, it's about control. And they're losing it.
Well,
And that's the truth.
controlling women.
Well, not even just controlling women, it's controlling us as a population. The
Well,
basically, I mean, like literally, like I said, it's, gay people will be affected by this. LGBT, like think about this. Like also, like, did you know the marriage law that allows gay people to get married is connected to this law?
I
Yeah,
didn't know that. Oh.
yeah. Roe v. Wade's privacy argument was one of the things that was used in the argument that, hey, the government can't be the ones to tell you who you can and can't marry based on sex and gender. So honestly, like gay people could be their marriage could be void because of this. I mean, literally, they could go after it because the whole point that these justices are making is that this law is not directly stated in the Constitution, even though we're supposed to have a level of privacy from the government, even according to the Constitution. So it's a whole fucking nightmare. It's a whole goddamn nightmare. And honestly, like I said, if the women who are going to potentially get executed or go to prison for the rest of their lives for failing to make a baby, which by the way, make no mistake, that's on the table now for them. They want that. And think about this. You could potentially have police officers harassing women just because. Think about it. They can't.
Well, when I start like trying to get pregnant, that's going to be a big issue for me. As I said, like I've talked about it, like I have issue. It's going to take a lot of tries probably and a lot of like hormone shots. So yeah, I'm definitely like in that way. It's definitely going to affect me. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm in a safe state because I'm probably going to have to go through several miscarriages before I would ever have a viable pregnancy.
Yeah, and if you're not in a safe state, they're gonna say, "Oh, you've been getting abortions. Time to go to prison."
Yeah, I purposely had 5 different abortions in a row. That sounds logical.
It doesn't. I mean, but they don't seem to care about logic. I mean, they're saying that they're defending a baby, but there's not a baby in there. It's a zygote at best.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but like this weird idea that like women love having abortions and it's just like this fun thing liberals do. Like
Yes, the
for one,
trendy thing to
most
do.
abortions are pill ones. I've taken Plan B before. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Like it's a better consequence than like having a kid. But I'll tell you, I refuse to ever do it again because oh my gosh, was that the worst period of my life? Oh my gosh, it hurt like crazy. It was not fun. And like there's no reason like nobody wants this. It's about it people aren't doing it on purpose.
They're not doing it for the funsies.
No.
They're doing
It's
it.
like it's like it'd be like this weird thing of like, oh, you got Crohn's on purpose, and that's why you like because you like getting colonoscopies. I don't like getting colonoscopies. I'm getting colonoscopies to deal with this medical issue I have.
Oh, and that's another thing.
Pregnancy is a medical issue. It's a creature attaching to your body, and whether or not you want to instead like for me, okay, so I have an inflamed intestine because of my Crohn's. Now, I chose to take the route of diet and working with the thing that is attacking my body. It's.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people who choose to get it cut out of them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be consequences to that. It's going to be painful. You might have to do it more than once, but that is also an option. How is pregnancy any different? One, you can choose to let it grow with you, like the baby, or you can choose, I do not want this,
Yeah,
and you can cut it out.
it's insane. It's fucking insane. This whole thing is like, it's just insane. It's just pure insanity. We're dealing with not only racist people, but crazy people in our offices. That's what we're dealing with. I mean, honestly, I'm convinced at this point that the only way you're Republican is if you're not right in the head, dumber than a bag of hammers, or evil, or some combination of the three. It's the only thing I can think of if you are conservative. You know what I mean? At this point. And I started out conservative. Let me point that out. I started out conservative, and as I got more educated, so I was in the dumb category, that conservative ideology started to break.
Same.
Because that's what happens when you start to get knowledge. And by the way, that's another thing I've seen. Matt Gaetz, that creepy bastard, you know what he said? He said that all the women that were up in arms about the Roe v. Wade overturn are overeducated and unloved. He said that's their problem. They're overeducated and unloved. He had the gall to throw that on fucking Twitter and say that women are he just basically said you're unloved, overeducated women.
See, this is another thing, like, why I would like to see more men stand up and, like, actually talk about it. Like, I understand the thought process behind, like, oh, I'm just, like, let the women speak for themselves. But it's like, I would like to see a little bit more visibility of it's not just women. And not that's, like, a cruel, dumb thing to say anyways.
I get what you're trying to say. You want more men to stand up and say to say things to him like, hey, that's not right. You can't say shit like that. Or you shouldn't say shit
or
like
just
that.
Or just say, like, hey, no, it's men who are miserable and unloved.
I mean, obviously that's the case. Think about it. There's no other explanation for why these men want this other than the fact that who's he catering to? The incel crowd who are like, well, if the women won't fuck us, then we'll just take away all their rights and make them fuck us. That's the only explanation I can think of.
A lot of it is, like, women are choosing to be like, okay, I want to choose who I sleep with. Then they're mad about that. And now it's like, okay, well, we're going to take away your choice to choose. We're going to assault you. And we're not going to give you any kind of justice for when you get assaulted. That's already been something every woman I've ever known. I've never met one woman. Okay, I've met exactly one woman in my life. Actually, my sister-in-law. But, like, they've all been assaulted by somebody and has seen zero form of justice from it. Zero. Normally, it's like a family member, somebody they're close to, doesn't matter why. But you take away their choice to choose whether or not they want to participate. You force them into carrying a part of them inside of them. Sorry, that's a weird way to say it. A pregnancy. You're forcing them to carry your DNA.
Yeah.
To imprint yourself on, which is such a personal decision. Like, I'm sorry, I'm somebody, as I said, I very much, like, I want to be pregnant, but, like, I would not want to carry a rapist baby. I would not want to give them the privilege of ever having,
and then you think,
like, a piece of them connected to me.
Yeah. And then on top of that, now they also want to let those guys get a chance to sue you for the rights to the
child. And
that's
the thing, it's about that. So then, because that was the thing, like, there was one ex of mine who was really obsessed and was upset with me because I said, like, no, I don't want to have a kid. Like, I'm still in college. I'm 19. And I think a lot of that, looking back, it was about control, because if I can get her to have a baby with me, she can't leave me. I have a piece of her. I've changed, Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of it is about, because a lot of these guys don't even care about the kids. A lot of them are deadbeat. It's about controlling the women.
Yeah, it's about
because they're angry. It's the one thing men don't have. They do not have the ability, at least yet. We'll see how science gets better, but they do not have the ability to carry a child. It's the one thing women have. So it's the one thing they're going to try to take away.
Oh,
it's the only thing we have over men.
Yeah, but even then, I guarantee you, they would just set the laws in our favor if guys like Mitch McConnell are still in charge.
Well, that's what they're doing. It's like, okay, so we can't control, if a pregnant. So now it's like it literally controlling miscarriages and whatnot. But it's like, okay, we can't control having, we can't create a baby for ourselves in our systems. This is the one thing women have that we don't have. So let's control when they do, at least just use them as a human incubator, because that's generally how it's seen. We are not seen as people. It is, we are used as sex objects. They want us around when they want something to play with, and when they decide they want kids, that's when they'll do it. Because like, ask any of these, they don't want their mistresses having children, then they're fine with abortions. But it's about that control. It's
Yeah.
about that control. It's about getting to decide what our bodies are used for, because and they want to have ownerships over our bodies, whether, because I've also seen the opposite. Like, I've seen a lot of cases where men will pressure women into having their babies, not aborting them. And I've
Mhm.
also seen a lot of cases where men will be the ones pressuring their partners into having the abortion because they decide, because they want to decide um when they do and don't have kids, because I've seen both sides to it plenty of times. And it's just about whatever they do. It's about hatred and control.
Yeah. It's it's infuriating because it's like, you know what I mean? I can't, it's
Okay, like a
horrible.
lot of these guys who are super into all this stuff, it's all like, oh, like men get so upset about like things like OnlyFans or any kind of privatized things. Like that was one thing
Yeah.
with another one of my ex, but like, you know what the only difference between that is and Pornhub is that the women are getting to control the narrative. They're getting to control what is out there, what is not. And I've seen so many of these same guys who get so upset about OnlyFans are the same ones looking up um R word porn on Pornhub, and it's
Mhm.
like, why? Because it's about taking any type of control or ownership away from the individual.
That's the
And it's like, for once, it would just, I would like the narrative to not be that I am just a walking object and that I have a say in
yeah.
what's going on in your lives. And it just all of it is just about it's just control.
Yeah. And the only thing is the just the GOP has just chosen the
It's
perfect legislation to attack because that control over that protection for women just happens to be a cornerstone legislation that's connected to all these other rights. So literally, when you think about it, they're not just targeting you, they're targeting, they're targeting the LGBT, they're targeting people of color, they're targeting um, you know, uh, interracial marriage, uh, they're targeting all sorts of rights. They're targeting the government's right to decide your medical stuff. Like, how crazy is that? Like, even in the system that we want for healthcare, which is a government funded system, right, where our taxes pay for the healthcare, the doctors should be the ones making, us and the patients together should be the ones making the choices. You know what I mean? In that ideal situation. And instead, basically the GOP just now gets to get in between you and your doctor and then decide, and then of course, like with all the other consequences that we already listed on top of that. I mean, we're literally talking about people like basically bitch McConnell gets to decide if you sorry, I didn't mean to throw a joke in there. I just he's a bitch. So, um he's basically him and his evil ilk are deciding who gets to make babies, how many babies they make, whether you're allowed to not only just it's not even just like whether you're allowed to not have a baby, it's also whether you're allowed to have one. Think about that. They could decide whether that because you have Jewish descent, they could decide maybe they don't want your DNA floating around because you have connections to to Jewish people. You know what I mean? Maybe they could decide they don't want my DNA floating around because I'm short and fat and have like psoriasis and I'm balding or something, and they got to decide, well, you're not the peak white male, so you're not allowed. You know what I mean? You're not 8 foot tall and jacked with muscles. With a lion's mane of hair and blue eyes. They could decide stuff like that. They could just, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they don't have to be nice. I mean, there are other things too that these things that could be connected to. Like if they can overturn something as central to the American existence as Roe v. Wade, think about all the other things they could possibly overturn. They could literally turn this into a white nationalist Christian nation against the will of everyone. They could decide they don't want me having kids because I'm pagan. I'm not a Christian, and I won't raise Christian babies. You know, like, think about it. I won't raise Christian children. More than likely, I'm going to end up, if I had children at all, I'd be raising atheistic children, because I wouldn't make them believe what I believe either. I would say, if you want to know about it, I'll tell you about it, but that's about as far as it goes. You know? But, you know, only I would just be answering questions. I wouldn't tell them they have to believe those things. You know? But that's just me being me at that point. But the point that I'm getting at is like, I'm not going to raise Christian children. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I was forced to, and I'm one of those guys that if I, you know, knocked a woman up, I would help her as best I can. Oh yeah, like 100%. If I
Mm-hmm.
knocked a woman up, I'm gonna have to quit doing YouTube stuff and go get, you know, a better paying job, because children are expensive as hell. You know what I
But
mean?
why are people quitting having them?
You know, I won't be able to chase this dream. You'll just, the Ben 10,000 of YGO and Nerd After Hours is dead if I have to raise kids. Because you think I'm not going to be able to do late night talks like this if I'm raising babies. I'm just being
Or
honest.
you'd only have late night talks because babies don't understand sleep schedules.
I wouldn't get to, because like, I know one of these days we'll be talking about one of these very things. I'm going to get heated, and then I'll hear wah, and I'll be like, oh fuck, I woke up the child. Damn it, Brian, you idiot. You know what I mean? Or alternatively, I'll have a 5-year-old, you know, who heard daddy screaming at the computer and want to know why daddy's screaming at the computer. And I'm going to be like, you're supposed to be in bed. That's it. No dino nuggies for you tomorrow.
Oh God.
That's right. Only veggie nuggies.
Don't be a terrorist.
I'm joking. But that's funny though. But you get what I'm saying. Like, that's how I would be as a dad. You know what I mean. The point that I'm getting at here is that nobody. I mean, like, this doesn't even just go for the way of forcing people to have children. It could also go the complete other way and denying people. Like, also, my friend Lissy, who was on for the OnlyFans video that you saw,
Mm-hmm.
she
Yeah, that was a really good one.
yeah, she can't have kids. She will
Oh, I
miscarry.
know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. She cannot have children. She does not have the ability to have babies. All right, her body will
Mm-hmm.
miscarry every time. They don't. I don't know why. They don't. I don't. If she knows why, she didn't specify why. But the point is, she has tried multiple times to have children with multiple men, and it has failed every time.
Oh, that's so upsetting.
Yeah, she actually does want to be a parent, but unfortunately her body won't let it happen. So, but
Mm-hmm.
under those laws, they could put her in prison because her body can't make babies. Like, they literally could. They could be like, "Nope, you're getting abortions." Even though there's no evidence for that. She doesn't take anything like, you know, she doesn't need to take anything like contraceptives. Her body won't take it anyway. You know what I mean? So she doesn't take contraceptives. She doesn't need them. You know, no shots, no pills, no IUDs, none of that. You know? So, I mean, like, and also, like, if they can make laws like that, what's to stop them from making laws forcing, not, and you know what I was thinking about this also? If they can do all this stuff, what's to say that they can't force you to have children, like all of us? They could say, nope, you have to have X amount of children at X amount of time. Like, you know how China has a law about a 1-child minimum? What if they said everybody has to have 3 kids? Like,
I
literally.
think both. It's like I'm like, obviously I'm anti like China's minimal child policy, but I also
Right.
just it's so they just need to stay out of people's fucking business. One size doesn't fit all, and there needs to be some form of basic freedom, and it's just this weird thing. It's this obsession with the religious right to control. It's like it's not enough to just stay, like, if somebody wants to like not be on any form of birth control and only have sex marriage. Like, that's fine if that's what you believe, but it's this obsession with controlling what other people do.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's
I'm anti-gay marriage, so I'm going to try to take away your right to get gay married. I'm like, well, why? Leave me alone. You don't have to if you don't like it. You don't believe in it. That's stupid, but it doesn't affect me.
yeah.
It shouldn't affect me. But it's this thing of trying to control what everybody else does, and then also having a persecution complex. And it's like, dude, you're literally the oppressor. Shut up. I do not care.
I mean, like,
I
yeah.
just,
I mean, literally, and Christians already get so much fucking, like, favoritism here as it is. They literally have so much favoritism because, like, think about it. They get to throw up their Bible verses on government buildings. They get to throw their 10 Commandments on government buildings. But if I dared to just put a simple pagan Wiccan tenant up there, like, let's say one of the things that Wiccans believe in is the rule of do what you will but harm none. If I tried to get that put on the wall of a government building, and like, let's say I even like I'm not even sure it could get on that wall even if I didn't tell them what it was from. Like, if I just put those words on the wall, I'm not sure I could get it up there because somebody's gonna know what that means. You know, somebody's gonna know what that's from, and is gonna tell some Christian, and they're gonna throw a hissy fit. You know what I mean? Like, even if I didn't say, okay, this is a Wiccan tenant, and the tenant is do what you will but harm none, right? Like, if I literally put that on that wall, on the bill, like, and I mean, I went through all the legal channels, whatever it took to get it right next to their 10 Commandments, right? Their little monument on the wall. The government's not going to take down all the religious ones. They're just going to take down mine. That's literally what happened recently when the Satanic Temple had their statue of Baphomet put up. Legally was up there, and it was up there because, you know, but did they take down the giant cross that's in the same park, Galloway? I doubt that. I guarantee you walk down wherever they put that down statue on that same government property, you'll see Christian tenants everywhere. You know what I mean? And I see it here in my own little small town all the time. There's crosses fucking everywhere. And the 10 Commandments reposted everywhere. And it's like, gee. I mean, like, honestly, I feel like if I committed a crime, even a minor one, in just my small town, and actually had to go to court about it, I feel like if they found out what my religion is, which is paganism, I feel like I would get a harsher punishment because I have the wrong God. Now, is the judge going to admit that that's the reason I'm getting a harsher punishment? Fuck no, he's not going to admit that. But I guarantee you it's going to be he's going to be like, you know what? Fuck this guy. He's got the wrong religion. You know what I mean? And maybe, and I know that mine is very light. You know what I mean? And mine's still going to be lighter than somebody else in my shoes. Like, God forbid if a Hispanic person was in my shoes and also wearing a symbol of paganism, I guarantee you that person's doubly boned. Because let's face it, our judicial system doesn't treat people of color well at all. Add woman to that, oh, double your delights. I mean that sarcastically too, by the way, the delights part.
I know. It's sorry. I feel smoked out. That's the best way I can put it. I'm drained. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, it's probably a good time to
Fed
wrap
up.
this.
I feel like I don't know, I've kind of screamed my piece, but it's like, I don't really know. I don't know, I guess I'm frustrated because I don't really know what I could possibly do at this point. Like, what options would I have? Because it's like, of course I don't want this to be the future, but it's like,
Well,
I don't know how I can do anything about it, to be honest.
well, we're doing it right now, in a way. One of the things we're doing is we're educating. We're sharing what we know.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we're bringing this video to probably an audience that maybe doesn't want to listen to it. And the truth is, if they want me to shut up about it, they're going to have to help me do something about it. Or they're going to have to get used to hearing me talk about it. and you talk about it. Probably more me than you, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, safer if you talk about it. If I even tell a joke about,
Oh
men
yeah.
don't deserve rights, I get banned. So,
Yeah, yeah. You make a joke on TikTok, and TikTok's like, "How dare you!"
Gosh.
So sensitive. My God, right wing men are so sensitive. Jesus Christ, they call us fucking snowflakes. Yet they're the ones
Oh,
who
yeah.
bitch about other people existing. Like, how dare the trans person just exist? How dare they? What? What do you mean you don't believe in my Jesus? What? How dare you marry somebody with a different skin tone?
I'm sorry. Like, you're gonna try. I'm ready to just.
Let me clutch my pearls.
Hmm.
Shit.
Plan B was expensive and painful, but I just want to start swallowing a bunch just to trigger a right wing Republican.
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to figure
Kill
out
all
where.
men, but this one.
You know what I'd
This
like to
one right here
do?
can
I'd like
stay.
to build a time machine, figure out where all these Republican dudes were going to be born, and then drop Plan B in their mom's drinks like the day before they were supposed to be conceived, or the day after, or whatever. Just oh, here's your team, Adam. Drop. Oops, what was that? Just instead of date rape drugs, it's I'm saving the future drugs. I'm making sure that bitch McConnell doesn't ever get born. That's a horrible joke. Because then we'd get Michelle McConnell, and she's 10 times worse. Or whatever, you know what I mean? We get Rodney McConnell. The next kid that would happen afterwards. That's a horrible joke. But you get what I'm saying. The timeline would probably correct itself against me. I've seen enough Marvel movies. That's probably how it works. Sorry, I gotta end this on a lighter note because this is such a negative.
I did have a funny. Well, not really. It still goes with the theme, but I thought it would at least be like something that could make you. I figured I could go over the most disturbing DM I got recently. I know you enjoy them. I did
Okay.
send you screenshots of it already, but I think after like laughing with Carolyn about it, I feel like I have quite a few points to make about how obscene this is.
Oh my god.
Lovely Chris Green.
Oh,
Definitely by the looks of his Instagram page is a Republican man.
Why are we not
His
surprised?
bio is God bless all, hate none. Okay. Do you want me to? Are you prepared for this?
My body
Might get
is
you more mad.
prepared for this.
Also,
I'm gonna go Super Saiyan right now. Just
must be super super into free love. When you guys gonna drop an OnlyFans?
oh no, not this. I remember this. Oh no.
Can't lie, I'm super attracted to you and your guys' lifestyles. There's a lot of misspells in it, so I'm gonna try to like hop over and think both you and Carolyn are under freaky and nymphins. Don't complete gibberish. Keep in mind,
I think he thinks
I'm not
you
in a
are.
polyamorous relationship.
Yeah,
I
that's.
never have been. I've made jokes about like Carolyn and I being together and basically Bogey being like a cuck, like you have to sit in the corner while I hang out with Carolyn. And then instead of somebody getting that that's a joke, it's like I'm just going to assume that you guys are. So that's already like keep in mind not to completely blast Kara. She'll talk about this. She is a innocent little baby. She is a virgin. She just recently this year got her first kiss. She is a pure innocent angel. Leave her alone. And up until this year, so was Bogey. So this weird idea, like, oh, you're like having this really freaky lifestyle and feeling the need to, I need to see it. Like, I need to see you guys all doing it. Where did you get this idea? And why are you thinking that you deserve the right to see it? Okay. And I don't know your man's name, but I know he's got everything a man need and more. Many would pay to watch you guys, including myself. And I mean absolutely zero disrespect whatsoever. It's an honest compliment to y'all.
I mean, ish.
Mm.
Ish. He might be being honest, I don't know, but he's
Oh,
definitely not educated on you, that's for sure.
shoot. just those pics you post, part of OnlyFans, so much as I appreciate and admire them all. You could make a killing, girl.
I give
Okay,
up.
I love how it's all like, it's so funny. He doesn't know how jealous and vengeful I am that he thinks that I would ever agree to something like that. Man's got everything, unless he thinks I'm really all that. Anyways, also I've taken since the drunk live video with your man to build the courage to send this kind of thing because deafen out of my character, and I do not want to cross a respect line here. You already really did by already assuming that. Okay, and keep in mind, this guy looks like he's like in his late 30s or 40s. Me and Carolyn are both in our very early 20s. All of us are. So, already very weird. Much, I'm trying to DM a young lady with such a thing. And on our drunk live, nothing sexual was going on. We were all joking and eating popcorn. I think I know it. I think he's talking about the one from last summer. Wild. Fucking
What?
wild.
Wait, so why are you seeing this DM now? What, did he record it or something?
I don't know. I don't know. It's so weird. Such little context. Okay, cross that respect line here. So hard to read. But you should know your man's is insanely lucky, and no disrespect to him at all. But if you were single, I would have been in this inbox long before now trying to wife you up because like a bleeped out I love how he's saying all these really like disrespectful like assuming stuff, but he won't spell out the word fuck. Like that's too dirt. That's too that baffles me. Unless he doesn't know how to spell the word fuck and just sort of put bleep words because he knows I know the word starts with an F. I got an ungodly amount of hots for you, and from when we meet the first time, never met him, no idea who this person is. I can only kind of tell what he looks like from the 2 pictures he has on here, right? Because I want to find bullying material. Okay.
I think he's giving you plenty.
One, fucking buck wild. Like, oh, I would have been in your. So it's like, okay, I waited long enough for you to become single again. Hasn't happened. So I guess I'll just shoot my shot anyways. But also, like, I respect him. You don't. And also trying to wife you up. How do you know I'm not already in the process of getting wifed up? How dare you assume that? I'm a high value woman. Leave me alone. Okay. This is when it gets worse. It gets so much worse with the I'm doing respect. No, you're not. Okay. As far as Carolyn goes, relay the message that she is equally as hot in many other ways. It's like I'm shooting my shot, but also let her know.
I give up.
Exactly, this greasy, gross little man thinks that he would even be deserving of breathing distance of either of us.
I give up.
Wild the audacity.
You know what, y'all?
Relay the message.
Society can have my man
He's
card.
He's equally as hot in other ways.
You know what, society? You can have my man card. Here. I quit. I'm non-binary as of now.
I've got more. I'm not done.
No, I'm done.
I'm not done.
Oh, God.
Don't get me wrong here when I say that I equally have the hots for her as I do you. But at the end of the day, you, in all caps, would always be my first pick because I've known and been following you for a few years and know that we are the same goofy ass person and we get along so good. So, okay, I have so many points to make about this last long tangent. One, no girl ever wants to be a second pick or know that there's somebody else they like. So both girls are going to be instantly turned off by that if he wasn't like an ugly greaseball, for one. Two, he was saying like the only reason why I didn't come in your inbox faster was because like, oh, I know you have a man. I was single for over a year, so if he's been following me for years, like that excuse doesn't make a difference. Like, that's the least of my worries. The big thing is, I know we're the same person. Dude, I'm a liberal atheist. I don't think you'd like me very much. Mr. What was the quote or the thing? God bless all, hate none. I hope God curses all. And he says this while tagging a picture of me where I have like my titties out. And like with a drooling emoji. But he has no. I'm sorry. I post these thirst trap for the gay women who follow me. I have a lot of gay women who follow me, not
I
for
give up.
you.
I give up.
And I just replied with no because I didn't even want to try to break all that down because he
Yeah.
doesn't deserve any of that. I just want to bully him. Um,
Yeah, I
but
saw
it's also
that.
really funny, and I think it's a pure example about men needing to be put in their place. I need what's her name? The TikTok girl who um like just basically bullies men.
Yeah.
I follow her on here. Give me a second. I wonder if I can find her name. Drew. Drew. That's her first name. What's her last? Drew. I don't know how to say her last name, but I know her first name's Drew. But I just like I'd love a takedown. So I'm hopefully next week I can have one equally as funny for you. I don't know. It depends on how Audacity goes, but I can try to make this a running gag. I know you enjoy them, and I haven't been doing my TikToks lately because no more TikToks. So I figure I can at least have you enjoy them.
I do enjoy them, but I will say this: it's this again. Every time I see this stuff, I just get reminded of the dickhead I was in my 20s, and I also just like want to resign as a guy and just be like, "That's it. Here's my man card, and I will take the non-binary one, thank you," and just be yep. Mm-hmm. And no, for the record, yes, I am still a dude. It's just a kind of my comment with men, with my fellow men. And also, the thing that pisses me off is like guys like him don't even learn. They don't even want to learn where they fucked up and change. I guarantee you that I'm sorry, but if they put fucking God in the bio, that guy doesn't
Oh,
want to change.
oh, so you know how I of course posted it on my story because my also a big thing I believe in is public humiliation. I want everybody to see the shameful thing you did. Don't post something on the internet if you don't want everybody to see it. Another
This
guy
is
who
your
I had
kink.
already done a TikTok about and I'd posted screenshots of things he sent me before on the same Instagram account had the audacity to tag that and like do a comment thing and go, "Oh, what the fuck?" I'm like, "Dude, that's literally you. I already put you in your place." Oh my god, let me find um the guy who was like trying to ask me out. In all fairness, he did it. Tyler Young. He's trying to did like a whole like, oh wow, that's crazy.
I mean, it
And I
is
literally did the same
different.
exact thing where I fully bullied him
Yeah,
and
I
showed him
mean,
where he went wrong. So now he's trying to play the high ground. If anything, he's more embarrassing because no matter how many times I was like, ew, no, he kept going for it. Like this other guy's gross, but at least he had the audacity to put his full balls out and then shut up after he got told no.
yeah,
Like I can at least give him that.
yeah. Hopefully, maybe, and who knows? Maybe I know this might be a silly way to look at it, but who knows? Maybe that will be enough for him to go. Maybe I need to rethink how I talk to women online.
I hope. I see. I always hope that. Like maybe if I embarrass somebody enough, they'll be like, "Huh, maybe I need to rethink my approach." You know,
Yeah,
just a little bit.
I mean, it's happened to me. I've said dumb shit and had a woman correct me, and I went, "Oh shit, I need to rethink how I talk to people."
Gosh, that was
So,
the only reason why. That was
I
the
mean,
one thing that
here's to
put
hope
Bogey in my
for
good stances. Like if I ever like talk him like yell at him about something he says, he shuts right up. Generally, like says something really dumb and out.
and let me guess, he listens and he goes, "Wait a minute, maybe I need to rethink this."
Oh, oh yeah.
Well, it's just it's the society we live in now. It's time to start listening to other people when they say you're hurting them in so whatever way that they say they're doing it. It's time to listen and change behaviors. I do it. Like, let's face it, I'm not going to go into details on it. You know some of the personal details. I've talked about some of the dumb shit I've said to women with you,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and you know that it eats me up inside because I still think about it. I still think about dumb shit I said to women half a decade ago, and I'm still going, Brian, you're a fucking moron. I just, I don't know why I can't let it go. It's just if in one of my head, and maybe I don't know, and it might be a good thing in the end. One of the things I try to do is look for the silver lining in things. So maybe one of the silver linings in that is as long as I'm constantly reminding myself of that negative behavior, I'll refuse to do it again. You know, and who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that guy will do the same thing because you embarrassed him.
I hope. I just always hope like sometimes I just want them to stop and read back what they just said
And then go, oh,
a little bit.
and go,
Oh,
like I do. Like,
yeah, 'cause that's the one thing is that, it's definitely you got it. I'm always really intrigued by whatever DMs I get cuz I'm just like, like I constantly post this great. I will publicly share what you've said online. I always have these guys get so fucking mad. I'm like, I've done this before to other people. Why did you think you were any different? If you're gonna come in and say some fuck shit, expect the same energy back. What?
I've actually thought about a few times of like trolling you with some of that stuff. Like, I thought about one time being like, Carissa, want to see my dick or whatever, and then like it's just a picture of like Larry sticking out of my
You
pants
sent
or
me a
something.
picture of Dick Grayson before.
I did do that. Yeah, I have done stuff like that. But like the idea, like one of the thoughts I had was like the stuffed Larry you sent me, like having it
Yeah.
poking out of my zipper or something. But I thought
See,
that
that's
was
funny.
See, yeah, I knew you. I kind of thought you would find it funny, but I changed my mind because I thought maybe that was a little too vulgar. So that's why I never sent that to you. But like,
I
that
mean,
was
there's
one
a
of the
line.
thoughts.
Some people might be really offended by that. I would find that funny. But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not everybody would.
Yeah, but see that thought is what crossed my mind, which is why I never sent you that photo. It's because I'm like, wait a minute, she may not find this funny, So, but yeah, I figure if I tell you about it, you could decide for yourself whether it was funny or not. But yeah, that was like one of the thoughts I had because like you always get those stupid DMs and it'd be like, well, what if I make this funny? You know what I mean? To try to lighten it, you know what I mean? Just to kind of balance out the.
I've seen plenty of real pickles sent to me unsolicited too. I don't know what men's obsession is with like making women look at their ding dongs when they don't want to. It's like, what do you gain from that? I don't know. I think
I have made
it must just be about like, it must be a humiliation kink. Like, you want me to see how ugly that looks? You want me to look at it?
I don't know.
I don't care if it's like, you gave me this boner. I'm like, okay, you can have it back. I don't want it. Ew.
I have
That's an ugly looking thing you got going dangling there.
Yeah, I've never sent a dick pic that wasn't asked for. I'll tell you that much. That's a no. Like one of the things, but on the Dick Grayson comment, like, yeah, I have made many a lady laugh with that one. Because like, especially because like, I've done it to like some of the other like sex workers I follow to try to like make them feel better because like they get sent all these crappy photos and be like, the only dick pics should be getting are these, and then it's a picture of Nightwing, and they're like, yes. I literally had.
I always find it so weird. Would you ever go into a coffee shop and hand them a cup of coffee you made from home? They have coffee there. Why would they want your crappy coffee that isn't made with a nice espresso machine? That's always the thing that baffles me. Like, wouldn't that be seem rude in any other thing? Like, you go into like Pizza Hut and hand them a Domino's pizza. Wouldn't they be like, what the fuck is it? Like, hey, I see you're doing that. What if it's like, I never understood what's going through these guys' minds when they do this. Like,
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing this ugly redneck dude being like back when you worked at Dunkin', be like, I made these donuts at home. They're for you.
Okay, homemade donuts are good.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying like cheap pot burnt coffee, and you're gonna bring it to me when I have this nice latte machine. I can make a gourmet oat milk caramel craze latte, and you're gonna bring me that.
All right,
and then instead, like, say you decided, and then also had the audacity to hand me that and say, "So can I get one of those for free?" Like, no. For one, I didn't want this. This is ugly. This tastes bad. This tastes horrible. This hurts my eyes to look at it. And then you think that should ingrace you to what I have? Glorious, beautiful, high energy? You think we're comparable? Honey, no.
Basically,
honey, no. There's a reason why
I
have a business and I'm selling.
And
you're barking for any piece.
I have a better example.
Like, there's a reason why you're bringing that coffee from home. You know it's bad. Why would you think I'd want to trade you for it?
Better example. You work at Donuts or Dunkin's, right? And you have like these all these amazing donuts you make in the back. You have the espresso machine. He comes in with Folgers instant coffee, not the kind you put in the machine. The spoon, you just put it in the hot water and stir. He's got a canteen of that. And those gas station donuts that are like mini donuts. He's like, trade? And they're not even the good kind. They're like those ugly coconut ones that nobody wants.
Sir? And then you're going to get mad and be like, well, you know what? Since you will not trade what I have, I'm going to come over and just steal those donuts and coffee you have. And then after I'm done stealing your donuts and coffee, I'm going to burn the house. I'm going to burn your store down. I'm going to make sure.
That is the perfect analogy.
That's the equivalent of what it feels like to be a woman. That's what it feels like.
I thought you were going to go to a different route with that, but yeah, that's accurate.
Oh, where did you think I was going with that?
I was going to imply on your other job.
Oh, well, that's kind of what I'm alluding to, but I'm just saying it's also just a metaphor for being a woman. Like, for me, like,
yeah.
Okay, like, generally, like, for me, it's like, oh, I'm going to go, like, you do not want to participate in this, so I'm going to take it from you. And then after I'm done taking it from you, I'm going to also,
Yeah.
I'm just
hateful shit. Just, that's all you need to say.
Yeah, like, that's basically what it's like 24/7, all the time. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
There might be those who understand, hey, I'm surrounded by donuts and coffee all day. I don't want any more. So that's the person you might want to bring a pizza to. But don't always expect that they might not want to trade. Maybe that person is lactose intolerant and can't even have cheese. Maybe, so instead of throwing a hissy fit that they don't want to accept your pizza, you decided to bring it in trade instead. Accept that and leave. Try a different coffee shop.
But yeah, I was gonna say I have made many a women very happy with a Nightwing photo. Like, I literally, there was an adult content creator that I followed on Twitter. She was mad about that. She was complaining about it, and I was like, how horrible. These are the only kinds of dick pics you should be getting. And it was a picture of Nightwing, like, from the comic book, and he was like doing a superhero pose with like the batons. And her reply to me was, yes! With the gif of a guy going like this.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. I was like, I knew that I made somebody's day, that one. Because they were like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, it's a picture of a superhero. You know what I mean? It's like, let's face it. How would you feel if instead of a penis photo, every time somebody wanted to send you a dick pic, instead they sent you a picture of Nightwing?
That would be fine. I wouldn't feel way less invasive, for sure.
Yeah, and let's face it, you wouldn't be pissed off. You might be annoyed after a while, because you'd be like, why do I have 9,000 pictures of Dick Grayson? But you wouldn't be like...
Honestly, I'd be fine with that, but it's upsetting, because I really want to see pictures of Spider-Man, and nobody's bringing me pictures of Spider-Man.
Okay, J&J.
That's all I've ever wanted.
Bring me pictures of Spider-Man!
It's a hard business. It's all, you know? Nobody understands my wants and needs.
We all know
it's hard.
We all know what you really want. You want pictures of Catwoman. Especially.
No, I want to be Catwoman. I want to wear as a skin suit.
It's got dark.
I didn't say that out loud.
I think on that note is a perfect note to end this podcast that is almost 3 hours long. But this was a very big one, a big heavy one, and I felt we needed to talk about it. And I think these jokes kind of ended off was a good way to taper this off, because I think we needed some humor to deal with all of that bullshit. So we'll do what we can from this point. We've talked about it. Here's some positive notes before we head out. We've talked about it. We've shared things we've seen. We've shared the news. People are educated if they have watched enough of this. Even if they just watched an hour into it, they've already got a shit ton of information. There's protests happening everywhere. If you have made it to this point in the video, go to a protest, donate to a protest, or to any of the organizations that are fighting for reproductive rights and privacy rights, etc. Just, do whatever you can. Make your voice heard. Call congressmen. Protest in front of Supreme Court justices' houses. I will encourage it. I don't care what other leftists claim to say. Yeah, protest in front of their homes. Let's make it to where these people don't get an ounce of good sleep until they decide to behave. And that's what I think we should do. So, if you can go to a protest, go to one. If you can't, share information, donate, do whatever you can. It's an all hands on deck situation. Carissa, do you have any closing words?
Treat humans as equal. Women are people too. Stop getting mad when we would like basic bodily autonomy. Maybe that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. That's the moral of the story. Treat people as people.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You know the drill from here. Peace.